read the package.
No, but I'm saying I have it on thumb drive. Just want to load it.
Oh, here it is. That's ABC.
No. No, you misunderstood it. No. It's a We'll talk after. I wanted to understand.
And like I said, it's resolved.
I read it.
Okay.
Really good.
Oh, shoot.
Right here on thumb
Oh,
drive.
yeah, there we go.
Right on thumb.
That's gonna.
You guys all right?
Well, look what it is. Oh, that's right. I'd like to call this meeting of the stated session of City Council to order. Please rise for the invocation, followed by the pledge of the flag. Our hearts are heavy with grief tonight over the individuals who were killed in Texas. We pray for God's comfort. We pray for God's help. There have been too many school shootings, too much killing of the innocent. Our faith calls for us to pray for those who have died and to bind the wounds of others. We join our prayers along with the community of those that lost loved ones. As we do so, each of us also needs to search our own souls for ways that we can be more understanding with this epidemic of evil and violence, and implore elected officials to take some action. I am left heartbroken by the massacre in the elementary school in Texas. I pray for the children, for the adults, and those that were killed, and their families. Help them through their grief. Amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Ettinger?
Here.
Mr. Milan?
Here.
Mr. O'Connell?
Here.
Dr. Ruggles?
Here.
Mrs. Sultana?
Here.
And Mayor Panto.
Present. Approval of the agenda, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved in second. Roll. Any other comments, additions, deletions to the agenda? Roll call.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Action on our minutes of a May 11th stated session.
Move to approve.
Second.
And seconded. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
And Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
And at this time, we're going to present resolutions congratulating the Police Officer of the Year for the last 3 years. I'll turn the meeting over to Councilman Ruggles.
Chief? I'm going to turn it over to the chief. Okay?
Good evening, everyone. Chief Carl Scalzo, City of Easton Police Department, 48 North 4th Street. Tonight, as we open the meeting here and begin the meeting, before we move forward, the department and I believe City Council is going to take a moment to recognize the Officer of the Year for 2021, and also take a moment to recognize there's 2 officers the past 2 years who didn't have an opportunity to be recognized because of issues with COVID restrictions. So every year, the City of Easton Police Department, along with the Kiwanis Club of Easton, recognize an officer designated as the Easton Police Officer of the Year. There was a banquet that was held on May 11th with the Pomfret Club, where that recognition was granted to those officers. The 2021 Officer of the Year is Detective Brian Bird. I'll have Captain Christofoli come up, and he's going to read the proclamation that was presented to him, and then the city council make the remarks. Following that, then I'd like to take a moment and then recognize Officer Vince Brunio, who's in the audience here as well, who was the 2019 Officer of the Year, and we'll read his proclamation and then do the same thing. So if I can have Captain Christofoli come forward. So we'll do Brian first.
Brian Bird was hired by the City of Easton Police Department on July 12, 2006, and was assigned to the Patrol Division. In 2010, Officer Bird became a member of the Easton Police Department's Special Response Unit. Also in 2010, Officer Bird joined the department's Honor Guard. In 2013, Officer Bird became one of the department's firearms instructors. In 2016, Officer Bird was promoted to a detective and assigned to the CID in the Vice Unit. In 2016, Detective Bird switched units in CID and joined the Crimes Detectives. There, he also became one of the only 3 evidence technicians within the department. While in CID, Detective Bird also became a federal task force officer assigned to the FBI. In this role, he acts as the Easton Police Department's liaison to the FBI and assists them with various investigations. Detective Bird has been involved in numerous major and critical incidents that has positive outcomes and made the City of Easton a safer place. For his diligent work, Detective Bird has been recognized by many federal, county, state, and municipal law enforcement agencies. Detective Bird has been dedicated to the mission of the Easton Police Department and its goal to make our community safe. Due to this dedication, Detective Bird has sacrificed many hours away from his family and home. For his outstanding service and dedication, Detective Brian Bird is named Easton Police Officer of the Year for 2021.
Mayor, you have to move it then too, okay?
Dr. Ruggles is going to move it.
So, I was at the Kiwanis Club meeting where they recognized you, and I think that one of the things that you pointed out was that one of your main driving forces was your wife, and you know, we really appreciate the families of the police officers and recognize how much they sacrifice for all that you guys do for the city. And so we want to thank you for all your service, an impressive list of things that you have been involved with. And I think that, you know, going forward, you're just going to be nothing but a great contribution or contributor to the department. So thank you very much. Peter?
Thank you, Dr. Ruggles. Brian, congratulations. Thank you for your service. I also thought your list of accomplishments was very impressive. So I hope you continue to impress us on council and to continue making our city safe. So thank you for your service.
Congratulations, Brian. Thank you so much for your service.
I would like to just congratulate you as well. I attended the luncheon, and it was wonderful to see all 3 of the one retired guy back. Oh, Vince, nice to see you back in City Hall. But I think, as I said that day, and I said every time I do it, this town is only better because of the police department. I mean, we have made our city safe, and that is a far cry than when I took office in 2008. And that all that credit goes to the police department. I'm very proud of that police department. I can't say when I was mayor back in the 80s, I can't say that. I was proud of the men and women who were in the department, but as a collectively, I wasn't as proud as I am as this. As I always say, if you do the crime in Easton, you're going to do the time because you guys are there. I remember one time, and this has to do with the entire department, but it happened to be Vince Bruneo. We were having an event downtown, and a young lady, maybe 7 years old, lost her iPhone, and she didn't want to tell her dad, and she was crying. And so she gave me a description of the gentleman. I gave it to Vince Bruneo. He says, I know who that is. He went to the guy's apartment and got the iPhone back. So saved the young girl, and her father was very appreciative. You all know the people here, and the nice thing I see now is you know the good people, because 90% of the people you deal with are good people. Unfortunately, you must deal also with the 10% who are the criminals, and very unfortunate, but you do, and you do a great job with them as well. I'm very proud of the fact that in 14 years we haven't had a major lawsuit. We haven't had any incident that I'm not proud of. We had 3 protests when George Floyd was murdered, and they were peaceful, and cops were talking to the people and everything. I was really proud. So I don't say it enough, but I want to make sure I say it tonight that I'm very proud of you and the men and women that you work with. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to echo what the mayor said, Brian. Your accomplishment is beyond words that we can say. We see your objective going up and up. We're very proud that you're a part of this team here in Easton and wish you nothing but the best. And as you said, a lot of times the homebodies don't get the credit that they need to because we give up a lot of our time to do what we want to do for our communities, and we appreciate that.
Detective, I can't really add very much to what everybody else is saying. I just want to say congratulations to you and your family for your service. You have an outstanding service record, and you're part of an absolutely superlative police department, and it's detectives and officers like you who make it that way. So thanks very much.
And there again, I can't add too much to that, but let me congratulate you and thank you for your service, and thanks to the family, because
Absolutely.
the time that you're spending keeping our streets safe, it's time you could be spending with your family, and we appreciate the sacrifices all the way around.
We have a resolution, or we haven't.
You got to read it.
Yet.
Move it.
Okay. I'm going to move the resolution, and I will read it.
I'll
We have a
second the
we have a
resolution.
second to Councilman O'Connell seconds.
Okay.
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 You go.
This is co-sponsored by everybody on council. Okay. Whereas Detective Brian Bird has been a member of the Easton Police Department since 2006, and whereas during his career, Detective Bird has served in the Patrol Division on Special Response Team, the department's Honor Guard, and as one of the department's firearms instructors. Detective Bird was promoted and assigned to the CID in the Vice Unit. Detective Brian Bird was then switched units in CID and joined the crime detectives. While there, he became one of only 3 evidence technicians within the department. Detective Brian Bird also became a federal task force officer assigned to the FBI, assisting them with various investigations. And whereas throughout his career, Detective Brian Bird has been and continues to be dedicated to the mission of the Easton Police Department and its goal to make our communities safe, and as evident with the receiving of numerous decorations, commendations, and citations. And whereas due to his dedication, Detective Brian Bird has sacrificed many hours away from his family and home. And whereas Detective Brian Bird is a valued and dedicated member of the Easton Police Department, now therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the City of Easton, Pennsylvania congratulates Detective Brian Bird for being honored as Easton Police Officer of the Year by the Kiwanis Club of Easton, and City Council commends him for his outstanding service and his achievements and wishes him much success in the future. Signed by the clerk and the mayor.
Mayor, we have to take a vote.
Yeah, we'll take a vote.
Oh,
Well,
we'll
present.
vote first. I'm sorry.
Wait,
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
And Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
We would now ask Officer Vince Brunio to please.
Good, that's it.
Officer
I
Brunio.
didn't see you there.
See that? See what happened?
Sorry, I didn't see you there, Nunzio.
We're going to take a moment now to recognize the 2019 Easton Police Officer of the Year was Officer Vince Brunio. Unfortunately, at that time with COVID going on, we weren't able to have a banquet and do all of the recognition. So Officer Brunio was called back on May 11th at the Pomfret Club again for the Kiwanis Club banquet, where we took a moment to recognize the accomplishment. We'll do the same thing here this evening. I'll just have Captain Christopher read his proclamation, and then we'll go through that same procedure just to recognize, obviously, the achievement that it is.
Vincent Brunio was hired by the City of Easton Police Department on May 1st, 2002, and was assigned to the Patrol Division. Officer Vincent Brunio was later assigned to the department as a department circle officer. Before his service with the City of Easton, Officer Vince Brunio served his country on board the USS Woodrow Wilson, a nuclear missile submarine, and honorably discharged in 1995. During his service, he was awarded the National Defense Medal during Operation Desert Storm. During the past year, Officer Vincent Brunio made 17 criminal arrests, 7 warrant arrests, and handled 242 calls for service. Officer Brunio has always placed the needs of the department ahead of his own and has been tasked with many duties not generally assigned to his position. Throughout his career, Officer Vincent Brunio has been decorated with the following commendations: a letter of commendation from the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, unit citations, and a certificate of recognition from Safe Harbor for his work with people in drug and alcohol recovery. Officer Vincent Brunio was also assigned to the Police Department's bicycle unit and crime scene processing unit. Officer Vincent Brunio has been dedicated to the mission of the Easton Police Department and its goal to make our community safe. Due to this dedication, Officer Vincent Brunio sacrificed many hours away from his family and home. For his outstanding service and dedication, Officer Vincent Brunio was named the Easton Police Officer of the Year for 2019.
Vince, I'll tell you, one of the things that just amazed me the most about you was how well you were known downtown. I mean, everybody knew you, and that is invaluable. I mean, just the story that the mayor just said. Oh yeah, I know who that is. Boom, now go. You know, and you know, just the shop owners and just all of the people downtown that were. I mean, you were just right there for them all the time, and so want to really thank you for that. So, thank you. Peter,
Thank you, Dr. Ruggles. Vince, congratulations on your award. I was sad that you left us to go to Lehigh, unfortunately, but hopefully you have better pastures. You can deal with college kids, which I'm sure is probably a step up from what we're doing here in the city. But but I do have people ask me how Vince is doing, so I hope you're doing well. I saw Joseph in the audience. Hello, Joseph. So congratulations. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for your service.
Many congratulations. That's actually the smile for me. That's all. And thank you so much for your service. I appreciate it.
Vince, I see your mom and dad in the back. Hello, and I see your wife and family, and everybody's here. This is really great because, as Mr. Brown said, it is the family that sets apart the time and the dedication. That not all the time do people come in, and when the officers come home, are they in a good mood? So you put them in a good mood because they come back with a smile on their face, and that's what we appreciate it. But Vince, you have good background, good family roots, and known them a long time, and I'm very proud of the fact that you were here and then retired from here. But you know, you went to that little community college up on the South Bethlehem. I don't know. And I have a degree from there, a graduate degree, so I can say that. But I wish you a long and healthy life.
Vince, you are certainly missed. We go back so long. We have so many stories to tell. But the one thing that stands out was I remember my son was acting out, and he wanted to be a police officer. And so my wife came up to me and said, Vince, could you help us out? My son wants to be an officer. And you gave him one of the badges, the stick-ons. And that kid would not take that badge off for nothing. I mean, we couldn't even wash his T-shirt. He wouldn't take it off, you know. And you just was an impressionable person. You remind me of the era when the police had a beat. you created that all over again. And your name is always going to be known throughout this part of the city, that you are well known, well liked, and well loved. We thank you for your service.
Officer Bruno, as usual, I can't add very much to what our other council people have said. I'm going to ask the mayor to start, if the accolades can start at this end from now on, so that we don't just repeat everything. But I just wanted to say thank you very much for your dedicated service. And also, as a fellow veteran, I'd like to thank you very much for your military service as well.
I kind of like it this way. I could catch somebody if they leave something out. And then otherwise, I just say, yeah, what they said goes for me too. But thank you so much for your service and congratulations.
I have the following resolution that I will move. And
need a
again,
second.
I'm introducing it, but it's co-sponsored by all members of City Council. Whereas Officer Vincent Brunio was a member of the Easton Police Department, hired in 2002 and retiring in 2001. Whereas during his career, Officer Vincent Brunio made many criminal arrests, many warrant arrests, and many calls for service. Whereas throughout his career, Officer Vincent Brunio was dedicated to the mission of the Easton Police Department and its goal to make our community safe. Whereas Officer Vincent Brunio has received many commendations, including a letter of commendation from the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, unit citations, as well as certificate of recognition from Safe Harbor for his work with people in drug and alcohol recovery. Whereas Officer Vincent Brunio was valued and dedicated member of the Easton Police Department. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the City of Easton, Pennsylvania congratulates Officer Vincent Brunio for being honored as Easton's Police Officer of the Year by the Kiwanis Club of Easton, and City Council commends him for his outstanding service and achievements and wishes him much success in the future. Need a second.
We have a second. We have a second.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger.
Aye.
Mr. Milan.
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell.
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles.
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana.
Aye.
And Mayor Panto.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Of course. He's like me. I had a 4.0 in college. 1.0 the first year, the second year, the third year, fourth year. That's a 4.0. I'm only kidding.
And lastly, I'd just like to take a moment just to mention that the 2020 Police Officer of the Year was Inspector John Pipparati. He was unable to be here this evening. He has a graduation, a family graduation to attend, so he was unable to attend. So we won't read through all of that, but we'll make sure that we get the proclamation and the resolution out there. We appreciate it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Chief.
At this point in our meeting, we're at public comment on agenda items only.
Mayor, we
Anyone-
have to do the resolution.
Oh, we didn't do the
One more
we didn't.
resolution.
Oh,
So we're gonna have,
I thought we were going to do that when he came. He's not going to come? Okay.
so we have a resolution being introduced by Dr. Ruggles also honoring, Mr. Piparato. So I just need a second then.
Second. So move, yeah.
And then the vote for it is Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana,
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
and Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Do you want to read it into the record though, Dr. Ruggles? It's up to you.
You don't have to. Okay.
Okay.
Do what you want. It's a short meeting anyway.
Okay.
Might as well read it. Again, this is the resolution I introduced, but is co-sponsored by the entire council. Whereas Inspector John Piparato has been a member of the Easton Police Department since 2004, and whereas during his career, Inspector John Piparato has served in the Patrol Division, the department's Defense Tactics Unit, Special Response Team, Criminal Investigation Division, where he served as a crime scene processor, court liaison, and evidence custodian. Whereas through his career, Inspector John Peperato has been and continues to be dedicated to the mission of the Easton Police Department and its goal to make our community safe, as evident with the receiving of many commendations and citations. And whereas due to his dedication, Inspector John Peperato has sacrificed many hours away from his family and home, and whereas Inspector John Peperato is valued and dedicated member of the Easton Police Department. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the City of Easton, Pennsylvania congratulates Inspector John Peperato for being honored as Easton's Police Officer of the Year by the Kiwanis Club of Easton, and City Council commends him for his outstanding service and achievements and wishes him much success in the future.
Chief, I'll make sure he gets the original to you tomorrow. You're welcome.
Okay, now we're at the public comment on agenda items only. Anyone like to address city council on any of the agenda items that are remaining on, or we already covered? Seeing none, we'll go on to the consent agenda, Madam Clerk.
Under the consent agenda, we have a resolution approving a COA for 214-216 Spring Garden Street, a COA for 121-123 North 3rd Street, a COA for 521 Ferry, a COA for 116 North Green Street, and a COA for 110-114 North Green Street, a COA for 238 Bushkill Street, also a resolution approving a right-of-way encroachment agreement, and that is with Mr. Bruce Groner, and it's for 475 South Delaware Drive. And we also have a resolution approving a stormwater management agreement with the Easton School District for the Conningham Stadium project.
I'll move the consent agenda.
I second it.
Moving to second, any discussion?
I had one question,
Go
Mayor.
ahead.
Regarding the stormwater management agreement with the school district, when we passed the ordinance, was it 2 years ago now?
3.
Is it 3 years now?
Yeah.
Did we ever consider reassessing somebody if they knocked the building down and rebuilt? Or did we just keep the fee flat
We have a flat fee.
for commercial property?
No, we have a flat fee for residential properties, and we have a, square footage agreement for, ordinance for anybody who's not a single-family residence.
So they would have been reassessed, I'm assuming.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I guess to answer your question, I don't know that we actually, if somebody changes their property, I don't know if we've ever reassessed what they actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could we
So I
look
don't
into
know-
that? I
don't
think
know
we
the
should look
answer.
into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just thought about that now because,
Yeah.
I mean, they knocked it down and they were assessed a fee. If they increase the square footage, I'm assuming their fee should be increased, correct?
It's stormwater management,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
it really has to do with the surface conditions. It would have nothing to do with the building
Yeah,
itself.
it's
Well, yeah,
impervious area.
Yeah,
It's impervious though.
right.
If they increase the square footage, that means their impervious went down.
If the footprint is increased.
I think it did though. It's a bigger stadium. So I think just for the administration to consider, maybe you guys can bring it back in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Thank
This
you.
agreement is for the BMP, isn't it?
It's
We're talking about the BMP, the best management practice that we're gonna put in as part of our stormwater program for the state. But we'll check that out. I'll receive the reports of council.
I need a vote.
Oh, go ahead.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
And Mr. Milan?
Aye.
I'll receive the report for the fire department for April, and we'll move on to reports of committee, finance committee, Councilman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Last night, council did meet in committee for finance. Our director of finance took us through several things last night, and there was plenty of dialogue last night. I believe that he sent out this afternoon a update. Am I correct when I say that, Mark?
Correct.
An update, and I know there was some questions last night in reference to AIT, and we was going to have them come in on a council's workshop. Other than that, I have two bills that I'll be introducing, Bill number 11, Bill number 12. Bill number 11 is amending the 2022 Recreation Fund budget, and also Bill number 12, American Rescue Plan Act budget for the ARPA. That will be coming to council this evening. That's my report, unless we have any questions for Mark.
Go ahead. Mr.
I
Zizek.
did have a quick update for council. I did speak to our rep from Keystone, and she will be able to make it for, I believe, the 14th is the next meeting. I did ask her to also prepare our top taxpayers over the last several years to see trending for both resident versus non-resident EIT, so she'll have that and other additional information for that meeting.
Okay, good.
Excuse me, when is the meeting?
14th.
Well, our next council meeting is June 8th,
Okay.
So the 7th.
so you'll be
The
meeting on the 7th.
Well, 14.
Well, June 8th is the second Wednesday of the month.
So we mean the 14th then.
The 14th, we don't meet.
17th,
You don't
7th,
meet on the
Okay.
14th.
7th.
Just get a new date.
All right, I'll make sure we get that squared away.
21st.
Yeah, it's the second and fourth Wednesday, not the second and fourth Tuesday. It's the second and fourth Wednesday with the Tuesday before. So you're right, the Tuesday, the 14th, is the second Thursday, Tuesday, but it's not the second Wednesday.
I've got to learn that calendar thing one of these days.
It's tricky.
So you're gonna have
Really
committee
hard.
meeting on the 7th then?
Yes.
Committee on the 7th.
Okay, anything else, Councilman Brown?
No, ma'am.
Economic Development Committee, Councilman O'Connell.
I have no report, Mayor.
Planning and Codes, Councilman Sultana.
I have no report, Mayor.
Public Safety, Councilman Ruggles.
Thank you. We're having police department come in on the second meeting of each month and talk a little bit about some of the things that are going on in the police department. And I'll let Chief Scalzo take over.
Thank you. Good evening again. This evening, what we'd like to do, what we're coming off is our reaccreditation process, which many of you are somewhat familiar with. But I wanted to take a moment and have our accreditation manager, Lieutenant Dan Regan, come up and speak a little bit about the accreditation process, just to kind of refresh exactly what it is we're doing over there as it pertains to accreditation. And then Captain Hernkane is going to come and speak a little bit about the importance of this specific reaccreditation due to the length of time that we've been accredited, which this now is our fifth reaccreditation. It's 15 years that we've been accredited a department. So we just wanted to speak a little bit about that, answer any questions that you had. So that's what we were going to do this evening. So I would call Lieutenant Regan.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Mayor, council,
Lieutenant.
everyone else present this evening. I'm Dan Regan. I'm a lieutenant with the Easton Police Department assigned to the Professional Standards Office. I did bring some notes. I promise I'm not going to stand here and read to you, but there are some figures on here that I will reference in a little bit. But just to give you a snapshot of what accreditation is about, why we do it, how we do it, here it is. Ultimately, the accreditation process in Pennsylvania is run by the PA Chiefs of Police. And they developed an organization which is known as PLEAC, which is known as the Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission, who then runs the PLEAC process, which oversees the accreditation for police departments, police agencies throughout the state of Pennsylvania. Why get accredited, you're probably thinking? There's countless reasons. I know your time is valuable. I'm not going to go over every one. So what I did was I pared it down to what I personally believe, in my experience, are the pillars of why agencies should do it. But again, there's countless reasons. Number one, it standardizes processes. I started with the Easton Police Department March 27th of 2000, obviously prior to accreditation, and every shift ran a little differently. It wasn't that we were doing things wrong. We were doing it the best way we knew how at that time. So every supervisor basically ran their shift differently, the way that they thought it should be run. Well, here with accreditation, it's basically a blueprint of best practices that runs throughout the entire organization, and it makes everything more uniform. And we're doing what's recognized by the PA Chiefs of Police, what's developed through policies, and it affects every part of the organization. Our records clerk, our traffic clerk, the PEOs, everything that happens throughout the police department contributes to the accreditation process. I'll get into that a little bit more shortly, but it also, what is important about this, in addition to that, it reduces liability. So when you're instituting best practices and things are being done properly, there's less issues, there's less problems that occur, because what plays into this are training, doing things the best way that we know how, in consultation with attorneys, in consultations with training companies, and other organizations that let us know what we should be doing and how we can do things better. We don't settle for the status quo. We're always looking to improve ourselves, to improve our operations, to improve our controls. In addition to that, it improves our performance, the results we get, and the methods that we use to carry out our duties. And lastly, and I think which is very important, it improves community relations. Any agencies that is accredited, I will tell you, prior to accreditation versus after accreditation, the communities have noticed an impact because the police officers are more professional. They're doing their duties in a different way. Again, best practices. That's why. So it definitely improves community relations, which is important more than ever, especially these days. Additionally, how we do it, I tried to pare it down to keep it short and sweet for you, but basically, it's an arduous process. It's a long process. I'm just a manager. I couldn't do it all myself if I tried. I can assure you of that. Everybody plays their part. I compile it in addition with Captain Hernkane, who was the previous accreditation manager for years prior to me, and the first person that actually spearheaded the accreditation was Lieutenant Scalzo back in '07, the first time we were accredited. So ultimately, the way we do it, it's a 3-year process, and it pretty much takes every day there's something done with accreditation. Every day in the police department, there's something that gets done, and then it's tailored to a policy, it's tailored to a procedure. Basically, what we call it is a proof. We go through what we're doing, and we pick out whether it's a police report, whether it's a form, whether it's a video, a photograph, to prove that we're doing what they want us to do. Because they're going to come in 3 years and they're going to take a look at, have you been doing what you're supposed to be doing? And they'll pull people aside throughout the police department. They'll look through our files. They'll interview us. They'll actually ask to see everything that we are supposed to be doing to ensure that we're doing it. So it's not an easy process by any stretch of the imagination. And I will tell you, separate from this, this is the standard. I can tell you, in all the divisions and units I've worked in since I've been here, most units actually take it slightly higher than what the accreditation process is. For example, when I was in CID, we had additional audits and controls that we implemented above and beyond what accreditation told us we had to have. And I can tell you also in the training division, I know they do it. Under Chief Scalzo, we do more training than the accreditation tells us we have to. Why? Because we want to be the best that we can be. We want to do things more than right because we want to give the public the best service that we possibly can, and we want to make sure we're doing things right to keep us out of civil suits, to keep us out of citizen complaints. We want to be professional, we want to be prepared, and we want to deliver the best service we possibly can. So the bottom line here is the way it is now, and I apologize, I don't have the exact figure because they just pared some down, but ultimately there's approximately 113 standards, and within those 113 standards, there's collectively 292 substandards. Well, for every single one of those, which is, if you combine that, it's over 300. I'm a cop, not an accountant, but I do know that it's definitely over 300. Ultimately, we have to come up and prove those 300 and some odd substandards and collective standards with all the other stuff I just mentioned, the photographs, the reports, to show everybody within the police department, to include civilian clerks, are doing the best practices and doing all this. So then we can provide that to them when they come in 3 years. And up until this point, the figure is actually even higher than that because you had to provide for each one of those years, you had to provide two proofs for each standard. So now multiply that, you're getting a lot, even more than that. So ultimately, throughout the state of Pennsylvania, there's only approximately 1,100 police agencies. Out of those 1,100 police agencies, only about 142 are actually accredited. So if my math is correct, and I know Dr. Ruggles loves his statistics, if my math is correct, I think that brings us to just about 13%. So we're one of approximately 13% of police departments in the agencies out of the agencies that were able to get over this hurdle for accreditation. So again, the bulk of my experience is in the detective division. Accreditation is somewhat new to me. I'm learning about it every day. Luckily, Captain Hernkane was not only accreditation manager, but he's actually an assessor that goes throughout the state to assess agencies. So I'm learning as much as I possibly can from him, and then also from Chief Scalzo, who was the previous accreditation manager years ago. So the knowledge is here, the experience is here. I'm just looking to carry the torch a little bit farther to make sure that we're going in the right direction. We're doing everything proper. And thank you all for your support, because we couldn't do it without your support and the community support. So if there's any questions, I'll try to answer. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to, I believe Captain Hurricane's going to speak a little bit about the premier status.
Well, I'm not going to take Captain Hurricane's thunder away from his announcement, but I will tell you I've attended 4 of the 5 exit interviews, and this one was really good. Lewis and I were there, and they interviewed us, and we interviewed them, and they couldn't be prouder of the Easton Department. They come from all over the state, so I'm very proud of the department's accreditation and this fifth time that you've been reaccredited. I think you become. When I first got in office, we were not the region's premier police department. Today we are. I mean, we're actually getting called by other municipalities. I think that's great. They would never call us back then because they just were afraid that we wouldn't be doing things appropriately. And I really appreciate the men and women of the department getting out and conversing with the community. I've already been when they stop at Shiloh or one of our churches, or get out of the car and play some hoops over at the neighborhood center, the Boys and Girls Club. That's what police work is today, and it's not just a rough and tough guy and girl who can get out there and tumble with the bad people. It's how do you get along with the good people too, and I really appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. How you doing, Mr. Mayor and Council? I'm Captain Brian Hurricane. Obviously, Lieutenant Regan kind of gave you the overview. I kind of just want to hit on the highlights of why this last accreditation was most important to us. So within the Pennsylvania Chiefs of Police, if you can get your initial assessment, you only have to show 1 year's worth of proofs. And that is what Chief Scalzo, then Lieutenant Scalzo, achieved for the department. Once you achieve that, then every 3 years thereafter, you have to prove, you have to show proofs for every single year at that 3-year point. We have successfully done that 5 times in a row with no extensions, with no problems. We have passed, every one of the assessors that came in has approved our reassessment with no issues. Therefore, Pennsylvania Chiefs of Police has now determined that we have gone so far and have proven so long that we now have reached premier status. Now, in speaking of premier status, those 292 standards that Lieutenant Regan just spoke of, instead of showing 2 proofs for every one of those standards, we now only have to show 1 proof. The agency is acknowledging that we have a body of work and that we adhere to our policies and practices for so long that we just have to now show 1. It's almost like a bonus, if you will, an acknowledgement of our hard work. It's kind of funny, Lieutenant Regan and I were talking about the numbers because we know Dr. Ruggles will be here, but there are only 21 departments in the Commonwealth that have achieved premier status. So that is 0.19, so less than 2% of the departments within the Commonwealth have reached premier status, and we will be number 22. So that, if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. I've been doing the accreditation for almost a decade now, so
Great job.
I know a little bit about it.
Congratulations. Well done.
All right.
Very well done.
So as you can tell from the passion that those guys have in reference to what they do, accreditation is really important to us as a department, really important to us as a city. Late in July, the 3rd week of July, is the Pennsylvania Chiefs of Police Association banquet and training conference that we attend. At that conference is when the final vote. I actually am fortunate enough to actually sit on the Pennsylvania Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission on that board. So I'm actually a part of that process. It's that important to us. And like Lieutenant Regan said, Brian actually goes out and does, Captain Hurricane does the assessments. So he actually goes to other departments and assesses them. Brian actually is responsible for, I think this is your fourth accreditation, so every 3 years. So he did 3 on his own and a large portion of this, and Lieutenant Regan came in and wrapped it up, and they both did a really good job getting us to where we are here as far as getting us accredited and getting us premier status. So once we do receive the actual vote, which again, we've already seen the report, it's already a done deal. It's just a matter of kind of that final stamp. We'll actually get our plaque that says, okay, this is your reaccreditation plaque. And at that time, retired Chief Jim Adams, who is the actual chairman of the Pennsylvania Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission, he requested to come in and be able to present that to the department in front of City Council. He was actually one of our very first assessors, Jim Adams was. So it's actually kind of one of those things where he saw us from the very beginning when this all started, and would like to be able to come in now that we're 15 years into it with some real success and kind of make that presentation. So we'll bring him back at that time.
Chief, what was his name again?
Jim Adams, retired Chief Jim Adams. He's the chair of the Pennsylvania Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission.
Chief, while you're here tonight, why don't you give an update on most recent candidates that applied?
As far as our new hire,
Yeah.
well, we just gave an entry-level testing process. The academy actually starts for Allentown Police Academy. Will start here early in July. We just wrapped up our testing process, and we ended up with about 50 candidates on the list, if I'm not mistaken, and it's just shy of that 49, I believe it was. So basically, we had a very diversified list, as we always try to do, to make sure that a candidate pool is as diversified a group of individuals as we can put forward. We have a lot of military on that list. I think about 11 or 12 individuals on the list were military, and we have some Act 120 certified individuals as well. So the list has been certified by the Civil Service Board, and that's before us now, and we're beginning our background process. We're trying to hire 4 officers to bring us up to full staffing, and we're optimistic from the list that we should end up getting there. So it's always tough. We're very, very selective. I say it every time we do swearing-ins, that officers that do get hired by this department should be extremely proud on day one, because just getting to that point is a real challenge, because again, we are very, very, we scrutinize very heavily all of the officers or all the candidates that come through. But as of right now, we do have 4 candidates in the background process, and we're moving that forward. And then once we get those 4 candidates, we'll present them here as we always would. So we're optimistic we'll get the 4 that we need, but the list is much like all over the Lehigh Valley and all over the country. The list, as far as the numbers, are dwindling as far as how many we get actually applying for the job. So hopefully, as time continues on, we'll get back to those numbers, and the job will become more attractive. But in all honesty, we want those individuals where it's a calling, not just a career. We want those people who really are coming to do the job for the right reason, and we try to really pick those out of the group that we get. So I don't think this will be any different, this group of individuals.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in, Chief. I think that this is a great opportunity for the police department to kind of describe who you are. You know?
Absolutely. We appreciate the opportunity.
I think the public just oftentimes don't realize all of the different components that are within the department. And so I'm ecstatic about your accreditation. Congratulations. I mean, it's hard to describe how much work that is. It really is.
And to their credit,
Captain, I know you did it for 4 years. That's incredible. But thank you very much, all of you.
To the credit of the 2 officers that spoke here tonight in reference to the accreditation, they worked. It's when I was back and we initially started this, I had all hands on deck. Everybody had to help me try to get this done and that done. Captain Hernkane and Lieutenant Regan, they did it all. I mean, all on their own as far as putting it together. It's an entire department achievement as far as everybody has to be involved. But as far as getting it all put together, which is an extreme amount of work, those guys really worked day and night to get that done and did a phenomenal job.
Thank you very much.
I have a question, Chief.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I mean, thank you so much for your work, first of all.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate that. And I heard that you guys are hiring more people.
We are.
Just a question popped up in my mind. Like, is there any quota set aside for people of color or for to hire women?
Well, the process is the same no matter as far as what we do is we work really hard prior to the actual testing process to start to making sure that we get the notification that we are hiring out to as much of a diverse group or area that we can, which we have found has brought in a diverse pool of applicants. The last, I think, 3 testing cycles, which is typically 2 years. This one might be shorter because of the number. But what we had is almost a 50-50 mix of diverse or minority individuals and white individuals as far as our pool. This testing process, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say 6 females.
I know the numbers. This testing process, we had total of 6 females, I believe 2 Hispanic females, 2 white females, and 2 African American females. I believe there was, I don't have the numbers in front of me, so don't quote me on this. I believe there was 7 African American males and 5 Hispanic males. That took the initial, or made it to the written portion of the test.
Out of how many people again, Captain?
I believe 51
51.
took the physical test, and I believe 49 made it to the actual the written portion of the test.
And
So-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And how long did it stay on the list?
List is for 2 years.
Okay.
So my question actually, I think I probably don't quite get that. Like, is there a quota set aside, or these are the people who hire? They applied, right? There is no
Correct.
quota. Okay. Okay.
It's a
It's a
civil
civil
service process, and so there's a real strict set of rules that we follow.
Right.
So we obviously entertain this question a lot, because we are actually one of the.
Chief, you're gonna have to talk in the microphone because we're recording.
I apologize.
No problem.
We're one of the most diverse, if not the most diverse department in the area as far as the larger departments. So we do entertain this question a lot as far as trying to articulate what we try to do to make sure our department is getting representation from as diverse a community as we can. But because of the civil service rules, everybody kind of has to follow the same process that goes in place. Once that list is certified by the Civil Service Board, we go straight down the list. So if you score first, regardless of race, sex, any of those things, we go right down the list, and it's you're 1, you're 2, and we just go right down, and the opportunity is theirs then to go through the background and all this process. But there are no number quotas, we have to have this many or that. It's all basically, we follow the civil service rules by the book, and but we do work really hard to make sure that the individuals that are on that list are as diverse as we possibly can make them to represent the department and have the department represent the community we serve the best we can.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Go ahead.
One more real quick presentation here. Kevin, would you mind coming up?
I know why Kevin's here. You're on trial here, Madison. You gotta make sure it works.
Oh, there we go. Work. Okay, great. Oh,
Okay. I'll just let you go ahead and explain the whole thing.
okay. Good evening, Mayor and council members. First, let me thank you for the opportunity to come here this evening and make a special presentation about a potential new initiative here within the city and specifically the Recreation Bureau. As I'm sure many of you know, that the senior citizens in America are some of the fastest growing demographics out there. About 16% of our population in the United States is over the age of 65, and that equates to 55 million residents. And I'm sure that equates the percentages to the city of Easton also. There's also strong evidence that when you look at mental and emotional health, if you have educational programs, you have physical activity, and mental programs, mental acuity programs, that you can reduce loneliness among our residents. You can also increase some health standards. You can increase physical health and you can increase mental health, which then interprets into a better quality of life. And so that's why we're here this evening. So let's hope that this works. I did.
He's coming.
My apologies. So, keeping in mind the opening comments, Dr. Ruggles came to me about 2 months ago now, and we had a discussion about what we might be able to do here within the city and how we could bring some programming to our senior citizens. And our initial discussions, we really basically came up with 4 values that we thought were important. That being socialization, wellness for our community, increase some spirit among our senior citizens, and also to get them engaged. We then started a process. In addition to the meetings that we were meeting on Tuesday mornings, we started doing some research and started looking at what other communities were doing. Not only communities locally, some of our partners such as the Forks area and Bethlehem Township, but also we looked at some larger cities. Dr. Ruggles was out in San Diego. We're looking at different programs that might also fit our needs. After doing some of that research, what we determined is we should also get some feedback from our stakeholders, from our citizens. So with Tracy Werner's help, we developed a survey tool. We wanted to keep it brief. There were only 9 questions. And we were quite fortunate that we had 117 respondents. And I won't bore you with all the details, but I think there are some important takeaways that we gleaned from that survey. One, that a majority of the residents were in that demographic, that senior citizen, 55 to 70 years of age. The majority of those that responded they're not involved in senior activities. So we have a very low threshold, and if we can get some of them engaged, we think we can make a difference. Also, a majority of them seem to be interested in single-day events. We're finding that across the board in recreation. I think that the days of when people made long-term commitments, they joined a bowling league that started on Labor Day and still was going through on Memorial Day, and they'd be in a bowling alley 2 or 3 nights a week. That isn't what's occurring now. People are looking for more drop-in opportunities for a short period of time, maybe a one-day event, or maybe a commitment 1 day a week for 4 weeks. And so that's what our information has also showed us. They said that they would be interested in participating in programs outside their neighborhood. I think in my short time here, there's a paradigm. If you're going to have a program, you've got to deliver it to the south side, or the people from the West Ward won't come downtown. And our data does not suggest that they are mobile and there aren't the barriers of the neighborhoods, which I think is a real positive. And then they also said that they were up for doing activities inside and out. A couple of other questions that I thought were really revealing. Do you participate in senior activities? You can see that 97 folks out of the 117 said they do not currently participate in senior activities. Here's another thing that's interesting. I think many times my office looks at programming and we also hear, we need a ride. There seems to be barriers for transportation. Well, not in this group that responded out of the 117. They're saying no, that they do have transportation. Once again, they're more inclined to the single day events. Also revealing we have a great park system. We're making wonderful improvements. There's accessibility, but 84 out of 117 said that they do use the city's facilities, which I think that's good feedback too. We also gave them a menu, a list of different types of activities, and said, well, now we know you're interested, you're not participating, or what would you like to see? So you can see that the top 2 are educational opportunities and field trips. Also in that top realm, fitness classes, any type of socialization, some yoga classes, and also arts and crafts. We listed about 20 different activities. Down the list was also pickleball, which seems to be very popular, and some other art classes. So by gathering the feedback, the 117 respondents, looking at national trends, our next step then was to develop sort of a pilot program and some sort of a small program. So what we're suggesting is that we will kick off this summer and through the fall would be an arts and crafts program for seniors. We already have a dedicated space, one of the local churches. We have an instructor that will work for us. So we're very happy about that. We're also talking about some more leisure activities, which will be more socialized based and won't require a big commitment. Maybe a final Friday of the month, a morning walk on the Sterner Arts Trail. Afterwards, maybe put some chairs out and get some feedback about additional programs that they would like to have and maybe offer some coffee. All right? Then we're also looking at some different field trips, more locally. We've already reached out to some areas like Martin Guitar. It's only $5 donation to get in. We don't know if we'll charge a nominal fee to our users or we'll make it free. But that's how we'd like to kick off. And then we've already reached out to St. Luke's. They're a partner with our youth sports program. They don't do a lot of outreach programs, but they're willing to kick off a pilot program with us and send some of their folks out, whether it be for aerobics, chair aerobics, yoga, and stretching. So we've made that contact with them. We put together a preliminary budget. I know Dr. Ruggles is making a presentation on that. These are just some raw numbers. We think we can kick it off for about a 6-month period of time with a total of about $5,000 of seed money. So that's it in a nutshell. I can also suggest to you that there's a lot of research out there on this. In 2019, there were 3,500 adults from 11 countries that were surveyed in this research. And here's the summary of it that I think is important. We can make people feel happy. We can get them satisfied with life. That increases their quality of life. And we do that through hobbies, volunteer services, and activities. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for also the work that you're doing in the parks. They're really starting to look really nice and well manicured. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And don't forget, Senior Day is our third year.
Yeah.
Our third year Senior Day is Sunday, August 21st, where Dr. Ruggles and I cook a free meal for them at lunchtime. Hamburgers, hot dogs.
Where is that taking place?
Down Scott Park.
Oh, that's right, too.
Scott Park.
I called out bingo last time.
You called out bingo. That's right. You did. You did.
Do that again.
Yeah, that's right. We'll do it again.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
Okay, moving on to Public Works. Mr. Ettinger, Councilman Ettinger.
I have no report tonight, Mayor.
Administration Committee, Councilman Manon.
I had nothing, Mayor.
Report of City Solicitor, Mr. Shear.
I have no report, thank you.
A report of the mayor, I just want to mention that this Saturday afternoon, late afternoon and evening, it was the second Twilight Criterion bike races downtown. If you weren't here last year, it's very good entertainment for the entire family. These bikes are much different than like the Tour de France, where the bikes go by and then you're done. This is where they go around and do 15 or 20 laps. They're going to ride by you at least every 3.5 minutes. It's a 1 mile loop, and they're traveling at a very high rate of speed, and this year we have bikers from all over the world. Some of the international teams are here, getting ready for the big Memorial Day race down in Somerville, New Jersey. So that's this Saturday night. There's also fireworks at the Forks of the Delaware at 9:30 to end the day. So the fireworks are sponsored by the city, and the bike race is sponsored by the committee that's doing that. You may have been, if you drove around the circle today, you may have been very pleased, like I was, to see people working. Not a very usual sight, but they are back on the job. We've been waiting for Med Ed. Lewis and David had a big meeting with the contractor at the circle. Actually, his brother is friends with the CEO at First Energy and lit a fire under them and got it done. So we were waiting for them. Before we could do any more excavating, we had to identify where their lines were. We certainly didn't want any trouble. So the circle's back on next week. You'll see concrete being poured, the pavers putting in, the wall around the fountain. So it's going to start moving a little quicker, but it's still not going to be done by July 8th, although the majority of it may be done. The garage and the plaza, the garage is up. We're very thankful. Last week we had a wonderful 4th Street Festival, thanking the crane for moving. It's now out and away. There is one, if you noticed, up at Lafayette College. They're putting up their parking deck behind the administration building. They're adding 250 additional car spaces, so that's good for us. Get more of their cars off the neighborhood streets. We talked about the premier certification. Is the drowning hero here? I didn't think so. But we've been having an issue with jumping off of the Silk Mill Bridge into the creek, and it's about 6 feet deep there. It's not high enough. It's not deep enough to jump off that high bridge, but they're doing it every year. We have the police down there trying to stop it, and what was that, Carl? About 2 weeks ago? Maybe it was about 3 weeks ago. A young man jumped off the bridge and into the creek and couldn't swim, and he was in 6 foot water. He probably thought it was not as deep as it was. He was drowning, and everybody just thought he was kidding, like kids do. And one of the young boys that was there, not with his group, went in and saved him. So we're going to honor him probably at the next meeting. So we want to warn people that bridge is not to be jumped off of. It's very shallow. Even 6 feet is enough to jump into. The other thing is, I want Carl, the chief of police, has met. I can't talk about it too much publicly, but the four-wheelers and motor sport bikes and all those other vehicles that shouldn't, the ATV vehicles that shouldn't be on the streets, that are on the streets, that are unlicensed, uninsured, and creating havoc with the motorists. Last week we did get 2 bikes. We confiscated 2. And so if the residents here, if they see it, just call us, call the non-emergency number at the police station, or the Northampton County 911 station, and we'll get on it right away. You probably won't see the police, though. We have ways of finding out who they are, where they are, because we can't chase them. They are very fast. They'll go through stop signs, and we don't want anyone getting hurt. So that's the update on that. Last thing is, all of City Council is invited to the Memorial Day Parade. You pay for it. The Veterans Council runs it. It's this Monday at 10:30 at 6th and Northampton Street. We walk down to the bridge and meet the Phillipsburg congregation, and then we go to the amphitheater for the ceremony.
10:30, did you say?
10:30, yes. And I'll turn the meeting over to, unless there's any questions, I'll turn it over to Mr. Campos for his report.
Mayor, the only update that I have is at the last meeting, I noted to council that the administration was rolling out the Ask the Bugler AI campaign that has officially gone out. The phone number in which you can text, in addition to going to our website, is 1-877-705-1752. I actually put it in my cell phone. I've tested it. I've used it. It's pretty good. I would suggest that all of council have that also in their cell phones and give it out in the community. We will start also marketing this effort on our utility bills. So expect that in the future, in the next month or two. So you're going to start out getting questions potentially on that. In addition to that, as the mayor said at the last meeting, what this will do is give staff, and there's a team, there's probably a dozen or so individuals that are monitoring the questions as they come in. So if they're not answerable, we'll look to answer the questions, but then also update our website so it could become more automated. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. I forgot to mention something very, very about the horrific incident that occurred yesterday in Texas. And let me begin, because this is going to be controversial, but let me begin by stating for the record that I'm not opposed to anyone's right to legally own a gun. I own 2 myself, and they're both legal. I belong to an organization called Mayors Against Illegal Guns, and that's the issue of illegal guns. It is a right guaranteed by the Second Amendment of the Bill of Rights, no doubt about that. Of course, when the Bill of Rights was passed in 1789, Americans were using musket rifles, and large capacity magazines, bump stocks, and assault rifles weren't even invented. So it was a different time, and we allowed that. And I know that I will get postcards from NRA members around the country like I normally do every time I bring this subject up. But again, I'm supporting laws concerning illegal guns. The messaging is easier on the other side, because they'll just say, oh, Mayor Panto's against owning guns. He wants to take everybody's guns away. That is the furthest from the truth. As soon as someone talks about common sense reform that we desperately need, we hear all the things that we're trying to take away guns. The last time I went deer hunting, I don't think I needed to use an assault rifle. All right? But yet, let's look at some of the facts, because the average NRA member also supports common sense reform. But the organization, since 2005, has received more than $60 million in donations from the firearms industry, including 8 corporate partners like the Golden Ring of Freedom, which is one of the big $1 million a year contributors who has their yellow sports coat. Among the industry members who have given that $1 million include the outdoor group, which was originally called the Freedom Group, Smith & Wesson, Beretta, USA, Springfield, Armory, and Sturm, Ruger, all the names that you recognize as being manufacturers of weapons. The Freedom Group is the manufacturer of the Bushmaster Sandy Hook Elementary School, Newton, Connecticut, back in 2012. That a rifle was used there. The Freedom Group was also giving them $1 million a year. Service Capital Management, which owns 94% of the Freedom Group, pledged to sell its investment in the days following Sandy Hook, but yet they have not lived up to their promise. Smith & Wesson was the manufacturer of the assault rifle used in July 2012 mass shooting in Aurora, Colorado that left 12 dead and 58 wounded. It's time for lawmakers to stand up for the common American person against the gun lobby and take action on common sense reform. I'm not looking for anything more than that. Just in the last 2 weeks, we had a gunman open fire at a supermarket in Buffalo, New York, killing 10 black shoppers and workers in what was described as a hate crime. Across the country that same weekend, someone opened fire in a California church, injuring 4 and killing 1. The Texas elementary school was the deadliest shooting in the United States grade school since the shocking attack on Sandy Hook almost a decade ago. This epidemic of gun violence is being addressed. It's impacting, it has to be addressed. It's not. It's impacting communities across our country, and it must be addressed at the highest levels. The country needs to wake up and realize that it has a gun problem. And I know people say, well, it's a people problem, not a gun problem. No, the gun problem is when you can go into a school and use an assault rifle, an AR-15 that was used yesterday, and killed 19 students and 2 teachers. That's not what this country is all about, and that's unfortunate. Americans are sick and tired of it, and we need to use our votes to support candidates that support common sense gun reform. So what is common sense gun reform? Let me talk to you about some of the things I'm talking about. I proposed to this council several years ago 2 ordinances. Both the solicitors said I couldn't do it because it's controlled by the state and federal government, not by local government. So I couldn't do it. And I accept that. One is a lost and stolen gun ordinance. What it means is that if my gun gets stolen, I report it. Just like if my car gets stolen. Why do you report it? 1, you want your insurance. And 2, if it's used in an accident, you want to make sure that you're not to blame because you reported it as being stolen. So if my gun is used in a crime, I want to make sure that my gun is reported as being stolen. I also believe that gun owners, like I have, should have a gun safe. And they shouldn't be giving the combination to their kids, who that's happened a number of times, where young kids have gone into the schools. I also asked for a straw partner ordinance. And by that means that the police officers many times will go and get the criminal, and they'll get the gun. But the gun is registered to a girlfriend or a boyfriend that that's not part of the crime. They went into the store and got the legal background check and got the gun. And then they give it to the boyfriend or girlfriend, they commit the crime. That would just place the straw buyer on the same negligence as the person who actually did the shooting. Also, limiting ammunition magazines to no more than 10 rounds. To require background checks on every gun sale. Right now, you can buy a gun on the internet or at a gun show, and you don't have to have a background check. Well, where am I going to? If I'm a criminal that wants an illegal gun, where am I going to go? I'm not going to go down to Joe's gun shop. I'm going to go to the gun shop, the gun show out at Stringe Center or at Allentown Fairgrounds and buy one. I also believe that the 3-day waiting period is not an inconvenience to a good person. It's not an inconvenience to a good person. But yet we have people in high places who oppose a 3-day waiting period. Also, to allow for the injury or death of a minor resulting from unsafe storage of that weapon. That goes back to the lost and stolen gun, making all owners put them in a gun safe. To ban the sale, transfer, manufacture, and importation of military-style assault weapons and high-capacity ammunition magazines. I know we had that rule. We had it. We had that law, and we repealed it. And the other one is ghost guns. I mean, we have a lot of guns that are not detected anymore. You can go through a metal detector with a gun that's made out of plastic, but it still kills. So I wanted to say that tonight because as a teacher, a former teacher, I think it's sad that our kids are going into school and our teachers are going in here to teach with fear. And I don't think they should be afraid. They shouldn't have to worry about if they hear a loud noise outside the hall, all of a sudden they dive under their desk or run into the closets. I don't think that's the way the kids learn. And I wanted to say something about it because, and I know a lot of people have, but as a former teacher, I am really proud of the Easton School District because every school they build, they're building new schools. We have a brand new March, we have a brand new Praxosa Restored, and we have a brand new Cheston. Every one of them has a control door where you walk into a lobby and you ring the bell, and then they allow you access. That's great, but it doesn't keep everybody out. If I want to do harm, I go in the window or a delivery door or something like that. So I'm very concerned about students' mental health. As you know, in the ARPA budget, we have some money to do some kids programs for mental health because kids are having it tough, and they shouldn't. School should be a fun time to learn, not a time to worry about carrying a gun in school because you're afraid that somebody else is going to have one. So I just wanted to go on record of promoting the Mayors Against Illegal Guns. Again, I own guns. I don't want to take anybody's guns away, but I do want to take away the guns from the bad people. The people who commit crimes that shouldn't have a crime are committing a crime, and we have to go after them. And I agree that it's the person, not the gun, that does the shooting. I agree with all that. But somehow this country has to get, as an industrialized country, we have the worst crime rate among gun violence than any other industrialized country. We're doing something wrong, and we just need to do something right for the kids.
Mayor, can I have a copy of your statement then?
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll move on to
No correspondence
no correspondence. We'll move on to new business.
and no unfinished.
Yeah, we'll move right on to new business.
Okay, we have bill number 11 being introduced by Mr. Brown, which would be amending the 2022 Recreation Fund budget.
Introduce.
And we have bill number 12, that was 11, I'm sorry. Bill number 12 also being introduced by Mr. Brown, making a budget for the American Rescue Plan Act.
Any comments on any of those bills? At this time, I have the public comment on non-agenda items, anything concerning the city of Easton. Yes,
Name and address, please.
you go with Kenesha first.
Hi, everyone. Good evening, council. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. I prepared these.
I need your name and address first, please.
Sure. Kanisa, Khanisa, Darby, Darby. I'm here on behalf of my business, The Pudding Bar at 118 Northampton Street.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I just have these pamphlets that I wanted to hand out to everyone. It's very short.
You want me to hand them out?
All right. So again, thank you for your time. I'm going to make this very brief. I hope that you will allow me this time to speak uninterrupted. I honestly feel that on behalf of my family, my husband, my children, and our customers, we have been screaming at the mountaintops, from the mountaintops, since last year. My business is now shuttered for the second time. I have been running, my husband and I have been running our dessert shop. We are the Pudding Bar. We make all pudding-based desserts. We began in Easton in 2016. We were renting on West St. Joseph Street. And then we moved to 74 North 4th Street, which was a post road property at that time. That was in 2017. We've also had carts in the Lehigh Valley Mall, Menlo Park Mall, Bridgewater Gardens Mall, Jersey Gardens Mall. In New Jersey, we work with Bloomingdale's. We have carried Easton onto Sirius XM syndicated radio over 9 shows. We have worked with Comedy Central. We have been on PBS. We cater for the NBA. We actually have another event coming up. Multiple NBA headquarters employees are our customers. On top of many political figures in the area, most notably Robert Freeman, many from his office, many from this city building here, and also Susan Wild and Senator Boscola, who are all people we have met with regarding these issues. So I just wanted to give you a background on us. You can also look us up if you need to learn any more. So I started with the Home Rule Charter and the preamble to that because I feel that it's very important to read this aloud for you and for those who are listening. The Home Rule Charter preamble states, "We, the citizens of the city of Easton, requiring of our government honesty, efficiency, and accountability, believe local self-government is the most effective way to secure these goals. Acting under the Constitution and laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the electorate of the city of Easton does hereby adopt this Home Rule Charter, which provides for a mayor and council form of government that builds a system of professionalized, efficient, and fiscally sound management. Further, this charter encourages local and regional government cooperation, builds procedures to ensure government responsiveness to the citizens, and by virtue of securing the benefits of home rule, answers to the unique circumstances of our city's economy, geography, cultural, social, and political heritage. So this is the reason we are here. I feel that this is where the buck stops. We went to Lisa Boscola's office. Everyone asked about the city of Easton and Mayor Panto. We went to Robert Freeman last year. Have you spoken to Mayor Panto? We went to Susan Wild. Have you spoken to Mayor Panto? So we did that last August 10th, and you were also there, Mr. Campos, as well. So just to give you all a brief, we opened our business at 118 Northampton Street on August 24th, 2019. We performed majority of our build out. This was not what you may all know of as a vanilla shell. I don't know if it can even be described as a gray shell. We received this space and we agreed to do all of the finished work. All Post Road did was the HVAC, which is insufficient. We have the proof of that. And also they did the rough plumbing. We did everything else. We invested all we had into this. $140,000 build out, which we have all the receipts for. I mean, electrical, the lights that you see out front, the awning, the tile, the subflooring. Everything we put in this space was brand new, and we have watched it deteriorate over the last 3 years. So to begin, the next page that I have for you is the history of the building, and I felt that this was important to point out because being in business in Easton over the past 6 years, I have had the opportunity to work with zoning, to understand the certificate of occupancy process, to understand code, and what is required of you prior to opening to ensure the public safety. So I can't believe that I'm standing here with my floors dipping and bowing and the atrocious situation that lies beneath it, and city planning and codes is telling me, oh, the building's not gonna fall, you're fine. We don't know what's going on, we'll find out from the engineers, and still nothing. That was March. So I'm still closed. The city did not close me. I was closed last year due to a flood where, out of nowhere, June 30th, sprinklers start leaking everywhere, everywhere. This was alarming. People were running out of the building, crying, saying, come out. We don't know what's going on. There's water coming out of the walls, crying. It looks like a horror movie. Okay, this happened. We were closed for 3 months. There was no proper investigation into why that even happened. So just to get back to where I was, the second page that you have here that says history, I feel that this is the main reason why we are being ignored. And this is only speculation. We, as citizens and constituents, we are only privy to certain information. So this was all found from a simple Google search. It brought me to northamptoncounty.org website. So just to describe the history, in 2005, the city of Easton, through the RDA, acquired 118 Northampton Street. The RDA agreed to trade with the previous owner to avoid them having to pay a lien on another property that they own. At the time, the building was damaged in a fire 30 years earlier. It had no roof. A developer tried to rehab in the past but was unsuccessful. The RDA used a clawback provision in the sales agreement to regain ownership. So 118 Northampton Street is where our storefront is. But we were also residential tenants in 120, which is the adjoining building. 120 Northampton Street was acquired 5 years later in 2010. At the time, the property was on the city's certified blighted list and posed a health and safety risk as portions of the facade have fallen on cars parked at the hotel located behind the property. On January 29th, I'm not sure if you all are aware, January 29th of 2021, the front window from apartment 4 fell and struck myself and my husband. I was hit in my head, knocked to the ground. My husband was hit first, cut his arm, literally, the pressure, through his coat, didn't slice his coat, didn't slice his hoodie, literally onto his arm. We are still fighting through injuries now because of this. I cannot touch this side of my head without my hair standing up. So to see that in the subsequent days and weeks and months after, Charbel Corey, who I warned you about last August, he showed up and showed his anger, displayed it, threw debris to the side, yelling at Alyssa from Post Road Management, clean this sugar honey iced tea up, okay? And then August 10th, after the water damage, after the walls are cracking open in our apartment, we are injured on January 29th, January 30th, we wake up in our apartment and there is a crack just in the ceiling, water coming out. This happened 5 to 6 times up until the water damage on June 30th, okay? So I call Charbel in on June 30th. I say, hey, look at our apartment because something's not right with those sprinklers. Their pictures from upstairs looks just like our apartment that we've been complaining about this issue since 2018. What does he do? Nothing. So now, August, remember, I'm sorry, this is a lot. January 29th, we were hit with a window. All between January and June, walls cracking open. June, sprinkler, leaks, water damage, 6 apartments, I believe, vacated. And then August, our apartment cracks open again, water coming out of the light fixtures. It has to be closed. So we warned on August 10th, we talked to Mayor Panto, we talked to Mr. Campos about Charbel's misconduct, about his basically walking around and completely ignoring everything that we were saying. It was blatant. Blatant. So, being that the facade had fallen off prior to the acquisition of 120, and then to find out that tenants were hit, there was also another incident. When was that? I'm sorry. Shortly after, the same summer, 2021, a patron of the Eastonian Hotel, the stucco fell off the side of the building, the mural side, and struck their car. They were not informed. There's a lot of information on that as well. Right, yes, we did alert the city on that as well, and as far as we know, there haven't been any subsequent inspections. There were also no inspections after the window fell from the front of the building. And when we met with Mayor Panto on August 10th, again, that was January 29th, he had no idea, neither did Mr. Campos. So I'm not sure what the procedure is. When I read the code, Easton's code, I know there is a lot of power, a lot of reach here in this room, but I will give you the benefit of the doubt of not knowing. Everyone else here. So that's why we're here today. The city, just to get back to the history, 120 Northampton Street, the city filed a declaration of taking and used eminent domain, which the owner opposed, and this tied up condemnation for over a year. The RDA eventually paid $100,000 to the courts and gained possession of 120 in 2012. So we learned that this street, because again, we as citizens who have been talking about this for a year, this building is telling us a story. There's obviously a big problem here, a public health and safety issue here. This street, I'm reading in publications, is described as the gateway to Easton, the missing teeth. There is big significance in this being a historic district, hence the historic district committee and all that you have to do just to even change your facade here, which we appreciate. But the rules should apply the same to everyone. The authoritative stance that we receive as business owners, as tenants, as citizens should be the same for developers as well, and we're seeing that that bias exists. The RDA retained a revised subdivision permit merging 118 and 120 Northampton Street into a single property, and then they also went as far as to purchase the parking lot across the street to make it more attractive. So this was obviously an important piece of real estate to Easton. RDA applied for and won the anchor building grant from the state. They used $500,000 of this grant to loan to Post Road for a 25-year term at 0% interest, and this was also noted to be a benefit for the developer because the loan doesn't trigger prevailing wage requirements. The RDA applied also for the Keystone Opportunity Zone designation, which of course does benefit business owners as well. But the way it was written in this case study that I found on northamptoncounty.org that you have, everything is the RDA did this, the RDA did that, the RDA did this, the RDA did that. So in figuring all this out, they also received historic tax credits. For 118, the federal tax credit was $171,000. The state was valued at $105,000, and for 120, the federal $152,000, the state $95,000. So I felt that that was very important to bring up just to show all that these historic properties bring in and how the funds are supposed to be used to help revitalize the area. But what it's actually doing is, I'm not really sure where the funds went, if I'm being quite honest, because I'm not seeing it. My family's been in construction my whole life. You can fact check that. I have property owners in my life, tenants. I haven't seen anything like this. Okay, so the last page, the last 2 pages that you have, I only printed out because they show the reach of this council. So the first one says investigations. The council shall have the power by ordinance or to make or cause to be made investigations, audits, or studies of the city and the conduct of any city department, office, or agency. As for this purpose, may retain professional and technical assistance, subpoena witnesses, administer oaths, take testimony, require the production of evidence, and provide funds for such investigation. And then the last page basically explains the powers and duties of the city administrator. And I wanted to point out that it says you're able to appoint and suspend or remove all city employees and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of information here that the mayor was included on emails last summer, and so was Mr. Campos. As of right now, I wish I could use this to show you what our floors look like, but I am happy to pull it up on my phone for anyone on the council who would like to see. As of right now, you can look on Lehigh Valley Live. There is an article on this situation. Stephen Narowski, Director of Plans and Coding, told the news that the city's engineering department would be coming out to our store to assess and see what the best plan is moving forward. So the actions that we have seen demonstrate that there's a big problem here. Because why would the city also agree that they need an engineer? On top of the engineer we hired an engineer, but found out he should have recused himself. His name is Barry Cohen. He's a third-party approved agency for the state. One of the counties that he works for is Northampton County. He told us it would take 1 week to receive our engineering report, being that Post Road totally, what's the word I'm looking for? Not denied, but they refused at first to remove the drywall from the basement at Dwayne Tillman's request so that we could see why our floors were dipping down. So everyone agrees that our floors are dipping and falling, but they could not see why. And we were able to go in the basement once it was a small section was removed, not the full length of our store either, which our whole store is going like this. They didn't remove the drywall the full length, and then they remove it, and there's broken slabs of concrete under our floor. How is this possible? The wood it looks burned. It's broken, termite, tubes, damage. The apartment that was closed, mold, maggots, termite damage. I have all this on video since 2018. Yes, and that was a new addition to the building. So now here's just one article, Granary Commons that they own. I have people in my inbox right now saying they're going through the same thing. 500 Northampton Street, same thing. They own the building down. How many units does this property manager own in Easton? But also, they are post-road construction. They don't hire out. They use themselves, and they're doing a terrible job. And I wonder what state the city will be in the coming years. Are you all aware of this, and what are you going to do? We are the people, the first tenants in this building once the renovation was finished. We were the first commercial tenants. We were the first residential tenants. Why aren't you listening to us? This is a problem. The HVAC system is a problem. I have 6 people ready to come in here right now and explain to you how they thought their kid had asthma until they moved out. My daughter lived here. She had sinus infections all the time. I've never been prescribed an inhaler until the gas leak was found in my apartment. Charbel is aware of all of this, and I assume there has been no reprimanding for him. What is the process? And lastly, why hasn't Stephen Narowski answered our email? Why hasn't Dwayne Tillman answered my email when he told me that my store was safe, but to cut off all the rest of my seating because people shouldn't walk on it? How is that safe? If I tried to open, you wouldn't give me a certificate of occupancy that way. How is it safe? If you can't tell me how it's not safe, then you can't tell me how it's safe. If we have to wait on an engineer, then we have to. So now, this was March 1st, I came to the city. We are at the end of May. Why is my store still closed with no explanation? And my guess is that the favoritism that Post Road is being shown is saving them. They were able to file an insurance claim when our store was closed last summer. I don't think they're able to do that again. So there's a lot at stake here. It seems like a lot of money tied up in this property. I don't understand how it benefits Easton to put this much effort into it, this much taxpayer dollars, this much, and to let it just fall apart and let our business that we have added a tremendous value, tremendous, monetarily, reputation. We take Easton everywhere with us. Look us up. You'll see how published we are. And we honestly feel that we're being ignored. We are being ignored. And this is why we're here right now. This situation has been festering for a long time. And I have to call you two out because we sat across from you and we told you about his conduct. And the next situation, he was back out. The only reason why Dwayne Tillman ended up at our shop this time was because on March 1st, when I came down to the second floor, I told the women at the front desk, I do not want Charbel. That's why we got this far. And now Dwayne won't get back to us. And neither will Stephen. So I'm hoping that there will be an investigation launched into this situation. I have a lot of evidence. A lot. So this is our plea for you all to wash your hands with this situation and detach yourselves from the situation because it's obvious wrongdoing. There's no way that our floors were soaked in June and they had someone working in the basement in December. We could feel it under our feet and you covered that up. That's gross negligence. That was on purpose. And fire hazards were found, lots found. So can we please all get to the bottom of where is the engineer report? Can we get an unbiased opinion? And what do they know that they're not telling us? Because right now, if my store has to be closed, then I should be able to use what I'm paying for, which is my insurance, because Post Road is still out here building up. You guys come to work every day. I'm trying to figure out what to do. Seriously, we pay a lot of taxes. We work hard, and we really loved Easton, and we love the people here, and the people here love us. And it's disheartening that we have seen this ugly side of the city. We were sold a dream. We thought we were moving into a beautiful business to invest and do business. 7-year lease with a 5-year term. And now Post Road wants us out. Instead of fixing it, instead of telling us what's wrong, they want us out. I'm finished. Thank you.
I'm not stopping you.
Thank you.
Kanisha, let me address a couple things that I found offensive. First of all, I don't even know Postal Road, so please don't talk about favoritism. If it's favoritism someplace else, I don't know who they are. Okay, I don't know anything about Postal Road. I do know that you rented from them on 4th Street when you're on 4th Street, and you rented from them again. That I know.
Yeah.
So you must have had some kind of good experience on 4th Street.
Well, yeah, if you're renovating a brand new building, everything that I just read, and it looks as beautiful as it did, I would assume that things were going great. See, 74 North 4th Street was very old, and if you want to be honest about it, I have pictures of how terrible the floors were done.
Okay.
The subflooring rotting out in the bathroom, and they sold it. So of course, I mean, we're not being unreasonable.
No,
we know that
I don't
things
think you are.
come up.
I think the unreasonableness is blaming the city for you being closed. Now, if
How?
the city,
How so?
you're blaming the city for being closed, and the city
No,
not
I'm
keeping you
not.
closed.
I'm not
You
blaming
didn't
the
tell
city
us
for
that
being
you
closed.
called Borco before we got to the meeting we had. You
In
told
August
us that.
Oh, Borco owns Postal Road?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's Post
I know
Road.
I know
It's
of
Post
him. I
Road
don't
You're
know
in all
him.
the articles. You're
I
in all
don't
the
know of
articles
him.
Speaking highly of him. You're in all the articles, Sal. Be careful. You're in all the articles speaking highly of Borco Milestad. Anybody in this room can just Google it. So you sitting here
I have
saying
no
that
problem
you
with
don't
that.
know him. You told me.
I don't know him. I know of him.
And that was, and just for the record, that was not a point that we made. See, the favoritism.
Well, if you're coming here
Excuse me.
asking for an investigation,
If I may, just because we have a record here and the clerk has been nice enough, I'm sorry, mister, you have to identify yourself, your name.
All right,
and
my name
address
is Sean
for the
Darby. I'm the husband of Kanisa Darby, also
co-owner.
co-owner of the Pudding Bar. All of these experiences I've been going through as well. For Sal to sit here and say that, oh, the city's not involved in this, when his representatives of the city, Louis
No, I
Campos,
just said
we have emails
we're not
that we
closing
can
you. I
show.
didn't say we weren't involved.
I know you're not closing us.
Well,
There's
that's
an
what everybody's
interest.
saying. We're closing you. We don't-
Nobody's saying that. We never said that. I don't care what the people out here say. The business is closed. We chose to close it because you're not doing your job. At the
What
end
do you
of the
expect me to do, Darby, Mr. Darby?
You're taking it personal.
No, I'm
and
not
I
taking it
said-
personally at all
I
because I've
said
been involved with
when-
this process every day.
When-
Every day we talk about you.
Called us. When have you talked to us? When have you emailed
We only
us?
No,
spoke
I'm
with
talking
you
to
on
my
August
staff.
10th.
Check your email and see all the water damage emails. we sent.
Okay, I will.
Look at your hysterical.
You don't have to point your finger at me.
I can point my finger.
It is,
All I'm saying is that the city is doing something. You have an issue. There's no doubt, and as I told you that day, there's no doubt about it. But your issue, I was just interviewed by a
you're
young.
going to say it's a landlord tenant.
It is landlord tenant.
Well,
The debris
what is
falling off the
public?
building?
What is public health and safety? That was the direct words from Northampton County case study. They said because debris fell off the building, it was considered a public health and safety issue. Not only debris, you are speaking of mold. You are speaking of termites.
Then
too.
we would
This is
shut
a
it
14th.
down.
So why haven't you?
That's a great question. I don't know.
So why isn't that your
All I've been
stance?
saying is, Louis, you have
You got
the
defensive
you
immediately.
talked to Stephen about this today because I wanted Stephen to be here. He couldn't
You
be.
got him. You got defensive immediately.
I am defensive.
Yeah.
Because I know that I
Because you are
personally.
Easton.
Now wait.
And you know what?
I personally asked John Kingsley to see if we can help you financially. So I am not trying to be defensive. I'm
John
trying
Kingsley
to say,
of Senator Boscola's office.
no,
Who are
John
you
Kingsley
speaking
of the City of Easton.
I don't know who that
Director
is.
of
We never
Economic.
even spoke to him.
He's a director of economic development who is supposed to be working with businesses to make them successful.
Well, not us. I'm not going to speak on anybody else,
We
but
just
you
talked
don't
about
even
this
know who
this
that
morning.
is.
We just talked about it this morning.
Oh, okay. You could have led with that.
Well, no, I don't need to lead with it. All I'm saying is that there is American Rescue Plan money that we can help local businesses. And I asked him to look into whether or not we can do it. But What I talked to him about was, just so you know, was moving you. Moving you to another location, you move all your equipment to another location, and maybe we could pay the rent for a year. I'm trying to help. I have a reputation of helping small businesses.
So listen. Well, here's the thing.
No, it just came up today.
Well, no, here, let me just make the point. January 29th, 2021, we were hit with the window. August 10th, 2021, we came to sit with you. Emails, subsequent, at the end of August 23rd, when the water came through, and basically we had to tell Charbel to do his job. I literally had to ask him. He said, if we close the apartment, where are you going to go? I said, what is your job? When you see this much water coming out, what would the procedures have you do? He said, close it. I said, do your job. That's just the bottom line. We're not asking for anything. Understand that. See, Kanisa and Sean Darby have busted their humps since 2016. We don't need a handout. We need people to do their jobs. So being that, Mayor, we came to you August 10th. August 23rd, Charbel came back out. That was a big problem. He already committed a lot of misconduct, just flat out misconduct. And he still came back out. On top of you guys being privy to some emails that I'm sure you felt were landlord-tenant, but this should be important to you because this developer is allowed to go around this city and we see a pattern. He's buying dilapidated, near demolition, blighted buildings, using taxpayer dollar to pay for it, using the license of Post Road Construction to hire people that he's picking up off the corner who, if you check the police report, he was getting kicked out by tenants because he was drunk. Same guy that's up underneath the floor where these joists are disgusting now. Nothing is done right. So if this one property, we've seen it all. The part that bit them, they cut off their nose to spite their face by giving us their original plans. The HVAC is not up to code. Right. Trust me.
You got to give your name and address, ma'am. You have to give your name and address.
Ma'am, you have to come up to the
You have to
microphone.
come up to the microphone.
The meeting is
we'll
being
move over
recorded
for you.
for people to watch it at home, so you have to come into the microphone.
It's okay. Just need your name and address, please.
Stacy Jackson. I'm speaking on behalf of 682 Bushkill Street.
Where do you live?
I live at 2627 Chestnut Lane.
Thank you.
So I also have a problem with Charbel. I have a million emails. I didn't print it out right now, but I can to show. We were starting a shelter at that building. He made us do all of this work, and he came out and slapped a condemned sign up there because he told us the balcony was improper. We tore it down. He came back and said the garage was improper. We started to lift it. We got an engineer and paid, I want to say probably about $6,500. He came back and then told us, no, the garage has to go. You have to rebuild it. He said he could not find a report. So we also had a problem with Charbel, and he stopped it. We had the shelter agency to send people over to live there. We got the permit. We got all the paperwork. 5 days prior to that, he stopped it. So it is an ongoing problem with him. I have every single email.
What's
Stacey,
the
what address was that?
682 Bushkill.
Thank you.
And I will say in his defense, there was an issue with the garage. It was. However, he told us to get this engineer and get all of this work done. We got the work done. It was $6,500. Well, nobody had any more money. So if you go to that street right now, you'll see half of the work done, some work incomplete. I mean, he had us to do all this work to come back, and he was very nasty. Oh, well, if you don't have the money to do it, then perhaps you can't run the shelter. What? You had us do all of this work. And the garage right now, you can go there. It's still up on the lifts or whatever they had us to put it up on. Instead of him just saying, tear it down. We went to repair it and spent money doing that, And he was very nasty about the situation. Well, guess what? Right now, it's just an empty shell right now. Another business that could have helped people and homeless people in the city of Easton, but he gave us a runaround. We went through one period where he was not even answering the text messages or the emails or us coming down here, and then you were closed for COVID. So it just went into a big runaround to where the people who were staying there had to get out and go to a shelter, because then they start threatening, saying that we have people staying there illegally. Well, it's not illegally. You told us to do this work, and now we can't. Then he said, you know what? Appeal it and take us to court. Then we come down here to find out we have to pay to take it to court. Like, nobody has that kind of money. We just want to bring the business here. And Chappelle did give us the runaround. And anybody who wants to see those documents and emails, I kept them all. I have a Chappelle file this big. And we never got anything done. And unfortunately for us, we didn't go that far deep in like they did. But the money started like evaporating. Like, okay, how can we do this if you keep telling us this needs to be done, that needs to be done? And not one time did he provide the engineer report. He made us hire an engineer that told us we had to do all of this work. He said the garage was found, was not faulty for 20 some odd years ago. Well, give us the report so we can see. We have yet to see the report. And the building right now is sitting there with half of the work done, and the garage is right now jacked up still because we have no report for it. 682 Bushkill Street. Thank you.
My name is Hagai Feiner, and
Sorry?
you can say
Guy Fine?
Hagai, Hagai. You can say that I live at 225 Ferry currently. I own multiple buildings in the city, and I love Easton. And to take a moment, I want to take a moment and thank the Codes Department for all their work with us. We've had a great experience with the Codes Office. I think the primary issue that Easton is experiencing is a combination of many old and historic buildings that require a lot of tender love, care, money, tenacity, grit to go and renovate. And then you have the developers that really operate on cap rate, profit, net profit. Who takes the money? Owner takes the money. And then you have a lot of good people like Kanissa's here that are suffering. Now, you have a job to do. What are you doing about this? This has been going on for so long, and my heart is broken for these people, for everything that they've gone through. And no one, who's standing up for them? It's our job as citizens, your job as city council. Look into the process of what happened here, what's broken. My experience has been great with the Codes Office, but we don't compromise on anything. We're spending about $1 million on 915 Northampton to make it as bulletproof as it could be beyond my lifetime, because I'm busy building a brand. I have a different attitude than those guys over there. If you see the deficiencies, the broken floor, the air that's coming into the building that's not supposed to, air from the outside because the walls are open, you see people creating, putting drywall to cover up shabby work, putting beams to try and support the floor from below because it's falling apart. You can't walk on it. It's not safe. It's not safe for you, not safe for me, not safe for these people. People are getting sick. Siding's falling on cars. How much of this is going to happen in this city until you decide to raise the standard of operation in this city? And if you want to come here to Easton, buy a building, renovate, uphold the standard, I'm asking you to uphold me to a higher standard and everybody else that's building here. Not the new construction is relatively easy. The hard part is all these old buildings. 225 Ferry was relatively easy to renovate because the structure is solid. I walked in, we bought 214 Spring Garden. You just approved that. You haven't even looked at the details, which don't really matter. Solid structure, not crooked. Nothing's rotten. If it is, 525 Ferry renovated, we had to go into the rafters and replace everything. The floors, the rafters. I don't want to waste your time. But there's a way to do this. And these guys, this developer, Post Road, is not doing it that way. They're looking at what their income is. They want to spend the minimum amount of money. And this is what we all get. You get yelled at, and these people are suffering for someone else's negligence. They don't deserve to be here, and they deserve to be punished. They deserve to be fined. They deserve to be shut down. They deserve to be kicked out. That's it. That's all I have to tell you. And I thank you for everything that you do, because Easton is special. Easton deserves more TLC from developers and everybody else that's here. So let's do it. Let's just decide. You can't do anything about gun control. You can do something about this. Show us what you can do. Thank you.
Your name and address, please.
Hi, Sania Pender, 624 West Wilkes-Barre.
Could you spell your name, please?
SANIYYAH. Last name Pender, PENDER.
West Wilkes-Barre Street?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. I am so sorry for everything that you've gone through. I have been following for a long time, and it's honestly ridiculous. I will say, and honestly, I'm the type of person that I don't really mind how you feel about it, but you were defensive from the very get-go. You can't negate somebody's experience.
She said I was playing favorites.
I understand that, but I'm gonna tell you why that it's okay for somebody to tell you their experience, because that's her experience, and you can't take away from it. Right? So let me tell you my experience, because I'm also a business owner, right? And if you look at the two of us, we're both the same skin color, right? Guess what? If you go on Instagram right now, anybody can pull out their phones, right? If you're talking, I'm not talking all of Northampton County, all this, I'm talking about city of Easton, because that's what that says, right? If you look right now, her and I, with the two same skin color, we have the top followings we're in the top 5 followings in the city of Easton, the two of us. You can look up all these restaurants right here and everything else. We have the biggest following in the city of Easton. I check. I'm on social media every day, so trust me. You don't have to fact check me. We do a lot. I have a video right now that has 1 million views, and it's steady climbing, and I did that in 7 days. I do things to do in Easton. I'm at the farmer's market every day. I'm doing all types of stuff. But guess what I found horribly cringy about the city of Easton? February is what? Black History Month, right? Guess what the city of Easton posted on February 1st, the very first day of Black History Month. And then I actually followed for every following day of February, which it's the shortest month of the year, my God. The very first thing that was posted on February 1st is a reminder to change your batteries for carbon monoxide detectors. That's a slap in the face to business owners and to black people in this community. It's a slap in the face. And I said, okay, you know what? I'll take that. Maybe somebody forgot. Whoever's in charge of the social media, I'll give it. I went February 2nd, 3rd, 4th, all the way until the last, I don't know if this was a leap year or not, but 28, 29, whatever it was, and not one post. Not one. That's disgusting. Juneteenth is a national holiday now. We couldn't get one post. It's gross. My mother, who just spoke, who's sitting back there now, we do a music festival here in Easton. We put on the only pride that Easton has, and we can't get any recognition as to who we are. It's cringy. Let me give you another example, and I'm glad the chief is still here, because as a business owner, I vended at Bacon Fest this year, right? Now, I had my spot, did whatever. I just so happened to be located around 3rd and Ferry, close to right in between where the antique store is, parking lot, and then you have Mesa's, right? So I was right in that area. I have my stuff set up where I'm supposed to be, right? The lady from the antique store comes out, nasty as all get out. Called me racist things, called me out of my name, all types of stuff. Called the police on me because she told me that I was in front of her store. I said, ma'am, this is where I'm supposed to be at. I was nice to her the whole time. I did what I was supposed to do. I said, this is where I'm supposed to be. Call whoever you need to call the Bacon Fest organizers, whatever. They'll figure it out with you. Okay, fine, no problem. She chose not to call the Bacon Fest organizers. She called the police on me. Hello, we all know how triggering that is for black people in America. You call the police over a map spot for a festival where there's thousands of people walking in the street, where you act like I'm selling my stuff inside of your store. That's ridiculous. So let me take it a step further. The two police officers show up. She's still nasty and yelling in my face. She pushed my clothing rack over. I had my goddaughter with me. She knocked her with a chair. This is a 10-year-old, mind you. She knocked her with a chair, knocked my clothing rack over in front of the police officers. She's doing all of this stuff in my face, and I'm just standing there. Because had I gotten out of line, what could have possibly happened to me? And no, I'm not saying I ever had that experience with police officers in Easton, but you can't say that it can't happen. We know that, right? So therefore, that was a horrible experience for me. The two police officers, they called the Bacon Fest organizers. They came over there and said, you know what, let me check it out. Oh, she's supposed to be here. They just walked away and said nothing to me. No apology. No, I'm sorry you had that experience. I didn't even want to stay there the rest of the day because I was just so fuming mad that that happened to me in a place that I have lived at for 8 years and have done festivals and done all types of community things for people to try to bring people together. And they don't do anything for me. They don't do anything for me or my black friends or my black son. They just don't. So I'm telling you, if you feel triggered, guess what? I'm triggered almost every single day. And it's heartbreaking. And the thing I love about living here is not what you all do for us, but the community that sticks together and we help each other. We help each other. And I want to actually, is it Miss Sultana? I want to say thank you to what you said to him because guess what? I've lived here for 8 years now. I've seen 2 black police officers ever. And we have the music festivals, we have Pride, so we interact with the police officers all the time. They come and they sit at the festival to make sure nothing gets rowdy or anything like that. And they come on stage and do everything. But guess what? Only 2 black officers that I've seen this entire time. If there is no quota, we talked about the accommodations or what the accreditations that the police officers get. Hello, why in 2022 is there no quota to have more black officers? Why is there no sensitivity for people to come when they deal with a person in the community who has been called racist things and the N word and a B word and everything else by a white business owner who got to just walk back into her store like nothing happened? And there's nobody to say, hey, you know what? Are you okay? Is there nothing. So if you are triggered, if you feel offended, guess what? Because we are offended too. We're offended too. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
My name is Scott Zukowski.
Spell your last name, please.
Zukowski.
And your address?
51 North First Street, Bangor, Pennsylvania, 18013.
North First Street?
First, 1ST Street.
Bangor.
Yes.
Okay.
Just a couple things. It's hard to follow up everything that's already been said.
Sir, could you pull the microphone up?
Sure.
Thank you.
It's hard to follow up on all the things that have been said already. I'm a steady customer to dozens of businesses here in Easton. I think it's the best small city I've ever been to. With this particular property that Kanisa and Sean are in, I've been in their business many times over the last year plus. We know the building is old. We know the building's in the floodplain. We know that there's water damage. We know that there was a building in Florida that collapsed last year, killing several people because of the salt from the ocean and shoddy business practices. It's an embarrassment politically for Ed Shaughnessy being the president of the Greater Easton Development Partnership and his wife having her business, the realty business, in a building that has mold and everything else on the floor, or could very easily be condemned if there's structural issues. I don't think this town can afford to have a building collapse. I think that might be overreaching, but in the time that it would take for the engineers of the city to do a thorough examination of the foundation and either allow it to pass so that the business can try and move forward. But Ellen certainly would lose business if she were to say, come on in, we've got mold and everything else here, the building's falling apart. Ed and Ellen should have been a part of this from the very beginning. I don't know why. I'm a very good customer of this city. The brand that Kanisa and Sean are building is as good as any I've ever seen in my life. Their product is as good as anything I've seen in my life. The work that they put into the building, the product they serve, how polite they are. It's a great reflection on a town that has so many good businesses, business owners, family men, community-minded people, volunteer-driven community. I think it would be very easy for the city to examine the foundation of the building and either confirm that there are structural issues that could force the building to close, which you might then look at condemning it, but you don't want to lose a business like these two people here in this town. Thank you.
Scott, I don't disagree with anything you just said. I agree with everything you said. The only thing I can do from this point forward, Mr. Campos, tomorrow you and I meet with Stephen and Brian and Charbel, and I know we met with them today, and they said that the city wasn't keeping them closed because that was what was being told. And I understand you agree that it's not, but what you want us to do is close it, close the building. So, okay, that's fine. We do whatever we can to keep businesses open, not close them, because we don't want to put you out on the street. Because we know that it's been really rough for you with not having a business income. And Scott, we don't do, and our engineering staff is not we don't do structural work. We don't have a structural engineer. We would third party that, and that's the building owner's responsibility. And I think, I was interviewed by a young third grader, and he said, the third question he asked was the last question. He said, what is the most difficult part of your job? The most difficult part about being mayor is really having no control over things that you wish you did. I mean, we really don't have, Kanisha, I know you're not going to, and Sean, you're not going to agree with me, but everything I've heard so far is a landlord-tenant other than shutting you down. And and if the building doesn't meet up to par, if there's black mold, we will shut it down. I don't know why it's not being done.
What about the debris falling off the building and hitting cars? That's just factual, though. This is not
I understand that, but
are you interested in seeing that?
No, of course I am. But
Well,
I will just tell
when
you
is
that I
that
just had
going to-
debris fall off my house.
No, but I'm just understanding. But when you have articles that state that this was an issue from the beginning, and then they give out $1.5 million worth of money to fix that problem, and then you don't. Now you fast forward, and the problem is still happening. We were injured. I almost watched my wife die, and no concern from this city. That's a fact. I'm not putting anything off on you outside of what is a fact. If someone came and asked me, what concern did you receive from the city of Easton after you, as a successful business owner, that you're saying you care about enough to move me and do all of that, where is the concern? Where's the outreach? There is no outreach. It's just the truth. And if you're saying this is a tenant-landlord issue, what if this was an old white lady that was walking down the street that got hit with the window and almost died? I'm just saying that woman spoke about race. That woman spoke about race. And you didn't say anything.
Because that's bullshit. That is absolutely bullshit. Because I don't see that at all.
How?
Okay, I don't see it.
How not? Nobody wants to answer that because you didn't read. There was no outreach.
Sean.
There was no outreach.
Mayor,
Sean,
if I
a second, please.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Joe, where are we as far as responsibility, liability goes with this? I've read about it, I've heard about it, but some things I heard tonight is very
Ultimately, it's the liability of the property owner. I mean, you have codes. You operate under your codes. I'm not going into a risk management assessment. We obviously know why we have codes and what we do to administer it. Something falls off the side of the building, that's the building owner's responsibility and liability.
Well, Cole shut my store down because water came up from the. It wasn't. Oh, this is the owner's. There wasn't that. They came in there and they slapped the condemned sticker on without talking to us, without saying, "Hey, you guys want to clean this up?" There's just some water coming from the ceiling. It was no. They're gonna have Charbel himself. They're gonna have to rip up your floors, rip up your bar, take out your roof, out your ceiling. I was crying that day. I was so hurt and devastated. I'm gonna have to close my store. They gotta rip up my floor, rip up my bar. I should spend $137,000. Rip up my bar. I was hysterical. It hurt me. And so then to find out that all they did was take 3 months to do the ceiling. They never fixed the floor. So now here we are, fast forward to now with our floors bowing and sinking in. We called the city. The city never said that this wasn't their issue. The city came out, Dwayne Tillman came out and then called Post Road out and then had them meet with them, and they intimidated Dwayne Tillman that day. I have a video. They surrounded that man and said, I'm not removing no drywall in the basement. How can you do that to a city official? I stepped up for Dwayne Tillman that day. Me, in that room with all those men while they were trying to intimidate him. And I said, why are y'all trying to intimidate this man? Y'all know that the floor under there looked bad. I got the videos. They was intimidating that city official right in the office, right in front of me. I have a video of that.
And just to add, our storefront is a public space. We have to get a license to be open. There has to be permits for any type of work that needs to be done. I mean, you guys are the authority of this public space. You say who can occupy. You say how many people can occupy it. So when we're considering public health and safety on a mixed-use residential multi-unit property, this is not a one-family, two-family building. I don't have the code in front of me, but I believe that there are other guidelines and rules. Am I not correct? I mean, we have to come to you guys to even be able to open, don't we? So why is there no authority over the egress? Because that's in your code. See, there's a difference between imminent danger and a dangerous structure. This building is a dangerous structure. When I sent Easton's code to Dwayne Tillman, he had no response for me. When I asked him about partial collapse, like the building that fell over there, Oak now. Have you seen our wall? Oh, you didn't see the drywall, the insulation, the drywall insulation that they stuffed between the terracotta. That's probably like 10 to 12 inches apart. We had cockroaches. Call up Joshua Tree in Orkin and see how many times we paid them to keep these pests out. We took care of this building. Post Road had no property manager. And if you don't have any guidelines for this, building more multi-unit, mixed-use, residential, commercial units, there should be a tenant association. The RDA popped up. Why can't we have that? There are more people than just us, but they have a lot less to lose. They didn't rent their apartment and invest $140,000 and pay business privilege tax, income tax, state tax, federal tax, personal income tax. So if I was a tenant, heck yeah, I would cut my losses and get out of here. But I'm not doing that because we have invested too much. And at this point, as far as Post Road, we are neck and neck in the amount of pocket change that went into this building. So I'm offended deeply that I continue to hear that this is a landlord-tenant issue, because we all know that if our floor was to collapse when our capacity of 42 is at its peak, when our events are sold out back to back, if you can't tell me the building's not going to fall, but I don't know what's causing your floors, don't put people on it. You can tell me that, but it's a landlord-tenant issue. I'm not sure.
Wait, if I may just clarify one thing, we're dealing with two separate issues here.
Mm-hmm.
There's one dealing with city administration and code compliance, and that's something that, from what I've seen, is there's a pending citation against the homeowner, the property owner. Now, whether I'm certainly in no position to judge whether that building there's an immediate danger and should be closed up, because I agree there's always this desire to try to keep it available for those people who want to be able to reside there. But that's an issue administratively to deal with. Separately, you have your own independent bag of issues that you can bring civilly directly with your
That
family.
we have retained Gross McGinley for that.
And-
So
and-
there is a
that-
portion.
Right, and that's a separate recourse.
Exactly.
So
We-
we're dealing with two separate issues. I don't
And we
even
fully
like, I don't even
understand
like
that.
the term landlord-tenant because this is a contract action.
It is.
And perhaps a level of, with the falling and all, that's a separate negligence action. But that's all things that you would get your own independent advice. But so we're dealing with two separate, totally independent.
Well, then we're also dealing with the fact that there was illegal spray foam applied to the side of the building that was supposed to have a permit. So, yeah, see, when they don't get a permit and then they perform illegal construction, according to the code, there's something that you all can do about that. So, again, we're here because understand, I only came to meet the mayor behind closed doors after we were injured for 9 months. See, we've been handling this privately for a long time, but April, if you check the date, go to Lehigh Valley Live, Stephen Narowski said the city's engineers will be out and they will figure out what needs to be done moving forward. Dwayne Tillman said he needed to see what the framing was of the building. So why the silence? If there was nothing wrong, if this was a landlord-tenant issue, and you know what, guys? Hey, engineers said everything's good. They didn't say that. They said nothing. When I quoted, again, the Easton Code regarding egress, my customers can't walk through. I'm literally looking at two sections that are dipping. If you drop marbles, they are going to the middle of the floor. My tables are uneven, two different levels. I can't have people over there. So now, here we are. March 1st, I went to the city. What's today? May 25th? I still don't have an answer. See, the reason why I'm closed, and I just want to touch on this last point, because I keep hearing you say businesses normally want to stay open. Of course we do. But why should I have to choose between my safety and my finances? Especially the mental anguish and ramifications of sitting in a building and knowing that this contractor does not do good work. Knowing that my safety is in their hands, I know I'm not safe. And then the city can't tell me I'm safe. They just said the building's not going to fall. Did Oak fall? No. That one facade on the side fell off. You should see our brick wall. Right. The Commodore is probably saving it right now.
You could ride past it and see a big yellow
Band-Aid
all over the wall that was done illegally.
Illegal
in
construction.
Spite of what the city said. They're saying to Post Road Management and Borko Malasev are saying screw the city.
Every
and y'all
time.
are getting
That's the
upset
east wall? Is that the east wall?
Yes, the
And
east
y'all-
wall facing the riverfront.
I thought the Commodore did that.
Nope,
No,
they didn't touch it. Nope, and we have the before picture and we have the after picture.
Under that spray foam, they stuffed drywall insulation in there. Prior to that, we came into our shop. My wife thought I spilled hot chocolate mix all over. There was dust all
Brick
over
dust.
our shop, all over our stuff.
It's open and exposed to the elements. And last year, we reached out to Stephen Narowski to ask him regarding the original plans. That wall was supposed to be insulated. It wasn't supposed to be brick, exposed brick. It's not fire rated. That's another requirement. We even have to have fire rated doors. Right. And we're in here with a full unfire rated wall. So we're talking about windows falling off, stucco falling off, cracks all in the front of the facade, water seeping into the basement. The fire department has been called out on multiple occasions. It's not even hooked up to where they come out automatically. I have called them myself. Tenants have complaints, but these people don't know where to turn. And they look at us and they see what we're going through and they say, if they can't do it, so they come to us. Message on message on message on message.
How did if this is something that y'all don't shut down or whatever, Charbel in September 2021, I believe, he shut down a house.
No, that was the beginning of the year.
Beginning of 2021,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Beginning of 2021, same thing. House had cracks in it. but little off to the side there was a sinkhole. So he decided to close it, even though he said in the article, even though I do not see any imminent danger.
Of collapse.
But he still closed that house.
Red Cross was
Why?
called.
Red Cross was called for that family. We never had anyone call anyone for us. I know you just talked about this today. I don't know where the conversation came from, but nobody ever called us to say, hey, we're willing to do anything for y'all. We didn't even look for that. We just wanted people to come in. We sent emails to Louis Campos, to Sal, just saying, hey, look, this is what's happening to us. You got water coming in this building from all over the place. Just ask all the tenants in the building. Just do a thorough search, which you could go on your website, the City of Easton website, the code's website, and see that y'all could go in apartments if you need to. Y'all can walk around a building if you need to, but when Charbel comes there and I say, aren't you the code enforcement? We don't enforce code. What do you mean, Charbel, you don't enforce code? I mean, these guys said it was vandalism. These guys said this. Charbel didn't even tell us we were living with a gas leak. When we opened the closet and he saw that the gas, that the water, that the flue vent was not connected, he said, was this like this? Was this always like this? We're like, I mean, yeah. He's like, I see it's all yellow around here. He didn't say those is gases.
And we stayed in there for like 3 more days.
Yeah,
3 more
this
days.
this is what we're dealing. So this is what makes it a city issue. Yes, is Post Road negligent for sure. Yes, is this Post Road's fault for robbing y'all? Yes, y'all should be seeking some type of restitution. They took y'all money, 1.5 million. I didn't take anything from y'all. They robbed y'all, did not do what they were supposed to do in that building, and we're fighting this alone? If y'all are all this whole meeting from beginning to end was about police and how much everybody loves the city and this, that, and the third, but look at what's happening to us, the actual business owners, the real business owners. This is what's happening to us. This is the voice of your peoples. When you go online, look at what the people are saying. They're calling you out, Sal, and we're not doing that to you. We're not doing that. Don't look at us and say, oh, y'all did this. No, we just told the truth. And people start blaming you. That's on them. That's the same way you don't even respond. I understand. It's like, I get it. You know, it's not your fault. You know Post Road is negligent. Even though you don't know Post Road, you know Borko Milosev. And Borko Milosev is negligent. Borko Milosev is robbing the city blind. I could prove it.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I've told people on my staff that I'm disappointed that Borko is such a bad landlord. I've told them that. Okay, so I'm telling you something that I told them in confidence, but I'm telling you right now publicly. I don't think he's the kind of developer I want in the city, but I can't stop him. I can't stop him from buying properties.
But you can make sure that the departments beneath you are doing their job, therefore holding him to the standard.
First thing at 8:30.
That's all we're asking for. We're not asking for anything. All we're doing is exercising our rights and hoping that everyone does their job and making sure that everyone else on the council knows what's happening, because when we came to you 9 months almost later, you didn't know anything. So we understand that there's a lot of secrets around here. So we need to start being more transparent and getting everything out on the surface so that it's fair. That's all we want.
Mr. Darby, and Mr. Darby, look, I do appreciate that you came in here, and it takes guts to speak publicly regarding your situation. So I can tell you that I know the mayor and I and the team we are going to look into it. I do want to just make a clarifying point that last year when it was brought to my attention through the Chamber of Commerce, Danielle Josephs specifically, I immediately jumped on that with the mayor to meet with you guys.
You did.
Because I'm also a customer.
Man,
yes, you did.
And so I just want to make sure that, because I know there's a lot of emotion here, and I echo what some of the other presenters said, you have your right to voice your opinion. I just want to put some clarifying words to that, all right? I'm not going to take away from your presentation. What we are going to do, because you escalated it and you looked into the charter and brought out some very appropriate language from the charter, yes, we can look into it. City Council has the ability to escalate the investigation, but you are right. The administration can look into the detail. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was brought to my attention that there was some there was some hype, if you will, on social media. I knew this was coming, all right, and this happened within a 24-hour period. My response was, fine, let them come publicly. You know, if you're not going to reach out to me, that's fine. Come out.
Well, y'all stop responding to it.
No. Well, that we'll look into. Okay, because and you hit the nail on the head. The city is big. There's a lot of people. You know, but we'll look into it. But you came in. I think you provide a very compelling presentation. You were very articulate. You did a good job. I think we get it. We're going to look into it. I'm going to circle back with you because I'm going to want you, as a part of an investigation, I want to get your side of the story in a little bit more clarity, at least from my head, and get some details. So I do appreciate you coming out. I don't know about the rest of the council, but I totally understand where you're coming from. You invested a lot of money. You're frustrated. You feel like you're not being heard. You're escalating it. So we're going to look into it. And I'm going to bring you back in. Give me a day or so, okay? Probably by the end of the day, I'll give you a call.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for that. And thank you for your time.
Thank
we hope
you
you
for
enjoy
coming.
the rest of your week. You're welcome, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for coming in.
No problem. Thank you.
Very quickly.
Go ahead, Scott.
30 seconds. There should be a history of all of the permit applications for the building from the time that it was purchased from the city. I don't know how much financing they've done, public monies or loans through the city, but there should be a pretty lengthy history of all of the permits that they had to file and code inspection follow-up. So if they're saying something as simple as the HVAC is not up to code, then you have to look at see who.
The code doesn't tell you how many tons of air conditioning you need. The code tells you how to install it and how it needs to be properly vented. They had a problem with venting, and that's a code issue. But
Right.
the size of the HVAC system isn't a code issue.
No, but in terms of just having a code, whoever it might be with codes, signing off on certain parts as the building was renovated.
Right.
That
We'll
you should
check
be able
all.
to
We're
check
going
the
to check on
history
all
of
that.
very quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they should have all the reports.
I just had something that I forgot that I actually came here to say besides the Black History Month stuff, because I came here for that too. But
By
also,
the way, we're not celebrating Juneteenth this year. It's June 12th, and we're working with the Lehigh Valley Juneteenth Committee. They're doing their Juneteenth celebration for a week so that they hit all of the cities, because last year they only did it in Bethlehem. So it is June 12th this year downtown.
okay, great, thank you. And also too, I wanted to mention about the Christmas Village. The very first year that we had the Christmas Village, I did it. I signed up. I actually was one of the only business owners that actually stayed out there almost pretty much every single weekend. I don't know if you guys remember, but it was brick cold. It was snowing. A lot of people did not open because of that. I was out there. I have videos where I walked around with just me open and showing everybody clothes. Why? Because that kid back there, I'm the only one that takes care of him. I'm a single mom and I'm a business owner, and I can't afford not to. So I was a little disheartened when we went from free to being able to vend in the Christmas Village to now it's, I believe, for me, $300 or $500. I'm going to be honest with you, for me, just for me personally, I can't speak for everybody else, but for me personally, $300 when I have to take care of a kid and everything else by myself, just with the cost of everything, right? It's a lot that I have to pay that in May for something I'm going to do in December, in November, December.
Okay,
And
I wasn't aware that you had to pay that in May.
you do.
Well,
you do.
Well, if you send me a note, and I'm sure we can delay that. But
Yeah, it's and let me add too that not only was I one of the only business owners, but I've been, the years I didn't vend last year. I believe you were the one. I was either you or some. If not, you look familiar. But it was the guy. It was whoever's in charge of the greater whatever.
That's not me.
Okay, so whatever happened was basically. Okay, so
Yeah, no.
you look alike, dark hair and glasses, but he's up here. He's in this building. But you're not in trouble, don't worry. But basically what happened was I applied to vend in the Christmas Village last year. Apparently it went from the city handling it to the greater economic development handler or something, I don't know, and the websites got switched. So apparently when the websites got switched, the applications didn't all carry over. Somehow my application got disappeared.
the person who handles it totally is in this building. It's John Kingsley.
No, I know.
And if you ever have a problem, then that John doesn't respond, then you get to Lewis or myself.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. They lost my application, and then when they did contact me back, there was no space for me. And all they could offer me was one single weekend, and just, it doesn't make sense for me to I hand make stuff. So it doesn't make sense for me to make all that.
I know
Yeah,
where you're
so,
at.
it doesn't make sense for me to do all that and then to vend for one weekend. You know what I mean? So I skipped it last year, but where I'm going is to say, back to the whole quota thing, I was the only person of color business in that whole village. And there's not one subsequently. So, like, guess what? You have Porters down there and all those other places, which is great. But guess what? We don't have the same pockets. We don't have the same experience. Just like I don't have the experience as probably anybody that's sitting up on this panel. So, like, it's.
You need to contact my office.
I did about this last year.
On everything we do, we have financial hardship. But we do spend about $150,000.
Mayor, I asked about it last year, and they told me no.
Well,
they told me
you didn't
there was
ask me.
none.
I can't tell you. I can't respond for other people. All I can say is you didn't ask me.
I mean, I've even posted about this on Facebook, and I know you're in Easton Post because I see you post all the time, and people were tagging you out the wazoo. And it's so funny as people said, oh, Sal responds to everything else, but he doesn't want to get involved in this. And, like, I mean, it is what it is. I get it, but...
I don't respond on Facebook. I do post, but I only respond to emails. I don't do instant messaging. If you're going to do that, I'm not going to see it.
Oh, no, I didn't send you okay. I didn't send you an instant message, but in the group, people tag you and they do the thing.
But I
whatever.
don't tag them back and I don't respond back to them. I try to stay out of it anymore.
You see that key word? You just say anymore because you used to.
I'm trying.
Yeah, so I know. That's why I know that, but I'm just saying I did all of what I was supposed to do.
Reading social media is all the inaccurate information that people post because they just don't know. So I try to correct it. Like we had a lady who was saying that we put faux brick down at the Seville, and I watched the masons mortar every individual brick. It was real brick. But once it gets out in social media, it gets a life of its own, and everything, they're putting faux brick up in the historic district. No, that's not true at all. Just like they think we put faux brick on our garage, and we know that it's real brick embedded into concrete. But
well, I don't know what's going on in the garage, but I can tell you, I can fact check anything that I tell you because I wouldn't have wasted my time and my night to come here to do it. So I promise you, I reached out. I told them that I couldn't afford it. I told them I couldn't because you want me to pay in May for something in December. Like
I didn't even know that. I don't get that in the weeds that much. I mean, we have a partnership. We do have the Greater Eastern Development Partnership that provides volunteers and some of the people that run the place. But it's a city event, unlike Bacon Fest. Bacon Fest is solely a GEDP event. We have nothing to do with it except providing all the assistance with trash removal and set up and tear down. When it comes to Winter Market, we do.
Oh, I know. I was the only one out there in the snow. The very first weekend, the very first year that you did it, I was out there. I have videos. There was no one who wanted to open. All your big popping restaurants and all that stuff, they shut down. The village was dead. But I was in there. But guess what? It sucked for me because who's going to come to see one person? Right. You couldn't even see me because I'm facing this way. So you're driving a circle. It looks like it's all closed.
After this meeting, you give me your email address and we'll be in touch.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else like to address City Council? Hearing none, I believe we're at the point of the meeting. Anyone from council? I'll move. Go ahead. You're still in that cane.
Just snuck in.
No, he's on the mend, but it's his low knee, not his high knee, David.
My name's Gabe Boucher, 104 South 18th Street. I am just absolutely touched by what you've said today. I've seen your place. I'm a frequent customer of a lot of places in Easton too, and I think we should really support them and rally and have a fine-tooth comb on this developer. I mean, if there's ever been any, rigidity or harshness, that now's the time. It seems this doesn't seem like a company we want in our city, or to deal with little mom and pop shops that are trying to get off the ground.
I haven't been in any of his buildings, I'll be honest, except for.
Yeah, I just want to know, you got people's support. I'd love to get involved, and yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gabe.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gabe. Hope you're getting better.
Thanks, Gabe.
Thanks.
Move for adjournment.
Second.
Moved in second in discussion. Roll call.
Mr. O'Connell.
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles.
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana.
Aye.
Mayor Panto.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Think of
No.
saying, Ken?
You can stay longer if you want to.